When the billion-dollar empire you built collapses at 2 a.m. and your 6-year-old daughter is dying in the next room, which do you save? Daniel Hayes made his choice, and it cost him everything he thought mattered. But what he found in the wreckage changed his life forever. Stay with me until the end, hit that like button, and drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this story travels across the world. The first alarm hit at 2:17 a.m. Daniel Hayes was dreaming about something ordinary, grocery shopping maybe, or fixing the broken hinge on the kitchen cabinet. When the piercing sound of his phone shattered the quiet, his eyes snapped open in the darkness of his bedroom, heart already hammering before his brain fully registered what was happening. He grabbed the phone from the nightstand, squinting against the sudden brightness of the screen. 12 missed calls, 37 messages, all in the last 11 minutes. "No," he whispered. "No, no, no." His fingers moved on instinct, unlocking the phone, opening the system monitoring app. The screen loaded, and his stomach dropped like a stone. Critical system failure. Infrastructure collapse imminent. Data loss accelerating. Every indicator that should have been green was screaming red. The entire back-end architecture of Hayes Tech Solutions, the company he'd built from nothing over the past 8 years, the platform that served 18 million users and generated nearly $1 billion in annual revenue, was dying in real time. Daniel sat up, his mind racing through protocols and contingencies, even as his hands started shaking. This wasn't supposed to be possible. They had redundancies, fail-safes, layers upon layers of protection, specifically designed to prevent exactly this scenario. The phone rang. Marcus Webb, his chief technology officer. "Tell me you're seeing this," Marcus said without preamble. His voice had the tight, controlled panic of someone watching a building burn down. "I'm looking at it right now. How bad?" "Catastrophic. We're losing data across all primary servers. Backups aren't responding. It's like someone opened every valve and pulled every plug simultaneously." Marcus sucked in a breath. "Daniel, if we don't stop this in the next hour, we're looking at complete system failure. Customer data, financial records, everything, gone." Daniel was already moving, throwing back the covers, reaching for the jeans he'd left draped over the chair. "Get everyone on a crisis call. I'll be logged in 3 minutes." "Already done. They're waiting for you." The call ended. Daniel pulled on his jeans, grabbed a sweatshirt from the floor. His laptop sat on the desk across the room, already powered on. He'd been working until past midnight, reviewing code for a security patch. He crossed to it in 4 long strides, his mind shifting into the cold, analytical mode that had carried him through every previous crisis. Except this didn't feel like the previous crises. This felt coordinated, intentional. His laptop screen blazed to life, showing the same apocalyptic dashboard. The system wasn't just failing, it was being systematically dismantled from the inside out. Data wasn't just corrupting, it was being deleted, overwritten, destroyed with surgical precision. Another call, Jennifer Park, his chief operations officer. "Daniel, the board is losing their minds. Shareholders are calling. We have media already sniffing around. Someone leaked." Her voice cracked slightly. "This is going to tank us. If customers find out their data might be compromised, then we fix it before they find out," Daniel said, his voice harder than he felt. "Tell the board I'm handling it. Tell them I built this system and I'll save it." "Can you?" He didn't answer. He didn't know. The video call loaded. 8 faces in squares, his entire senior leadership team. They all looked how he felt, terrified, exhausted, desperate. "Talk to me," Daniel said. "What triggered this?" Marcus shared his screen. Lines of code scrolled past, error logs stacking up faster than anyone could read them. Best we can tell, it started with a routine update pushed to production at 2:04 a.m. Except the update wasn't routine. It was malicious. Someone embedded a worm that immediately started corrupting database integrity. Who pushed the update? That's the problem. The logs show your credentials, Daniel, your authorization code, your security clearance. The room seemed to tilt slightly. "That's impossible. I've been home since 6 p.m. I didn't push anything." "We know." This from Sarah Chen, head of security. But the system doesn't. And right now, every log, every audit trail, every piece of evidence points directly at you as the source of this attack. Daniel's throat went dry. "Someone's framing me." "Or someone hacked your account," Sarah countered. "Either way, We have a bigger problem. Because if we can't prove otherwise, you're going to take the fall for this, criminally and civilly. The implications crashed over him like a wave. Criminal charges for corporate sabotage, civil lawsuits that would drain every penny he had, his reputation destroyed, his daughter's future eviscerated, his daughter. The thought cut through the panic like a blade. Emma, 6 years old, asleep in the room down the hall. She'd been fighting a cold for 3 days, nothing serious, just the usual winter bug going around her first-grade class. He'd given her medicine before bed, checked her temperature, slightly elevated, but nothing alarming. We need to start isolating systems, he said, forcing himself to focus. Partition the databases, cut off the worm's spread vectors. Marcus, can we... A sound from down the hall stopped him mid-sentence. A cough, wet and harsh, followed by a whimper. Daniel's head turned toward his bedroom door. The others kept talking, strategies and technical solutions pouring through the speakers, but their voices faded into background noise. Another cough, then faintly, "Daddy?" Everything in him went cold. "Give me 2 minutes," he said, already standing. "Daniel, we don't have 2 minutes." He muted the call and moved. The hallway was dark except for the small nightlight plugged in near Emma's door, a plastic star that glowed soft yellow. Daniel pushed the door open and immediately knew something was wrong. The air in the room was too warm, almost stifling. Emma's small form was tangled in her blankets, and even in the dim light he could see she was moving restlessly, her breathing ragged. "Hey, sweetheart," he said softly, crossing to her bed. "You okay?" She turned toward his voice, and his heart clenched. Her face was flushed, her eyes glassy and unfocused. When he pressed his palm to her forehead, her skin was blazing. "My throat hurts," she whispered, "and I'm really hot." Daniel grabbed the thermometer from her nightstand. He'd been keeping it close the past few days, and slipped it under her tongue. The 15 seconds it took to beep felt like hours. 103.8 degrees. His medical knowledge was limited, cobbled together from late-night internet searches and pediatrician visits, but he knew that number was bad, very bad. "Okay, baby, we're going to get you some medicine and cool you down, all right?" He went to the bathroom, grabbed the children's fever reducer, brought it back with a cup of water. Emma took it without complaint, which scared him more than anything. Normally, she fought medicine like it was poison. Her breathing was getting worse. Each inhale had a slight whistle to it, a sound that made his chest tighten with fear. From his bedroom, he could hear raised voices on the laptop. The crisis call. Still going, still urgent. The company still dying. Emma coughed again, a deep, body-racking sound that made her whole frame shudder. Daniel pulled out his phone and dialed Emma's pediatrician's after-hours line. It rang 4 times before an answering service picked up. "This is an emergency," he said, trying to keep his voice calm. "My daughter has a fever of 103.8, difficulty breathing, severe cough. She's 6 years old. I'll page the on-call physician. Please hold." More voices from the laptop. Someone was saying his name, urgency bleeding through. Emma whimpered. "Daddy, I don't feel good." "I know, baby. I know. We're getting help." The hold music was maddeningly cheerful. Daniel paced beside Emma's bed, one hand on her small shoulder, feeling the heat radiating from her body through the blanket. His phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. "Where are you? System is in complete freefall." Another from Jennifer. "Stock is going to crater when markets open. We need you now." Emma's breathing hitched, then she coughed so hard she gagged. Daniel grabbed the small trash can beside her bed just in time as she vomited. Not much, mostly water and medicine, but the violence of it shook her small body. "It's okay. It's okay," he murmured, rubbing her back as she cried. "You're okay." She wasn't okay. He could feel it in his bones. The same instinct that had woken him countless times when she was a baby, that had sent him running to her crib before she'd even started crying. Something was seriously wrong. The hold music cut off. A tired voice came on the line. "This is Dr. Morrison. I understand you have a pediatric fever emergency." Daniel rattled off the symptoms, the temperature, everything he could think of. There was a long pause. Has she had trouble breathing? Respiratory distress? Her breathing is labored. There's a whistling sound when she inhales. Another pause, longer this time. "I want you to take her to the emergency room, now." Don't wait. The bottom dropped out of Daniel's stomach. Is it that serious? With a fever that high and respiratory symptoms, we need to rule out serious infection. Pneumonia, potentially. At her age, these things can escalate quickly. If she's having trouble breathing, that's a red flag. Get her to the ER immediately. The call ended. Daniel stood frozen for 1 heartbeat, 2, his mind spinning. The laptop in his bedroom was still broadcasting chaos. Voices overlapping, systems failing, his entire professional life collapsing in real time. They needed him. Hundreds of employees needed him. 18 million users needed him. Emma coughed again, that terrible wet sound, and started crying softly. The choice wasn't even close. Okay, Emma Bear, he said, forcing warmth into his voice. We're going to go see the doctor, all right? Get you feeling better. He grabbed her warmest jacket from the closet, her boots, a spare blanket, wrapped her up gently, lifted her into his arms. She was so small, so light, her head lolling against his shoulder. Back in his bedroom, the laptop was pure chaos. Someone was shouting about catastrophic data loss. Someone else about legal liability. The system monitor showed more red than he'd ever seen. Daniel walked to the desk and leaned down to the microphone. I have to go. The voices cut off abruptly. What? Marcus's face filled the screen, disbelief written across every feature. Daniel, the entire company is imploding. We need you right now. My daughter has a 104-degree fever and can't breathe. I'm taking her to the hospital. Daniel? Jennifer started. You're smart people. Figure it out. Do whatever you have to do. I'll be back when I can. He closed the laptop. The silence that followed was deafening. Emma stirred in his arms. Where are we going? Hospital, baby. They're going to make you feel better. He grabbed his coat one-handed, his wallet, his keys, slipped his feet into boots without bothering to tie them. Every second felt precious. The apartment was on the 4th floor of a converted building in the city's tech district. Daniel shouldered through the door and headed for the elevator. Emma's weight, almost nothing in his arms, but feeling heavier with every step. The elevator ride down was endless. Emma's breathing was getting worse. He could hear the wheeze even without pressing his ear to her chest. Her skin was so hot, it felt like she was burning up from the inside. The lobby was deserted, just the night security guard reading something on his phone. He glanced up as Daniel rushed past. Everything okay, Mr. Hayes? Emergency. Hospital. Daniel hit the front door and the cold slammed into him like a wall. He'd known it was snowing, had seen it earlier when he'd checked on Emma before bed, light flurries drifting past the window. But this wasn't light flurries anymore. This was a blizzard. The world beyond the building's entrance was pure white chaos. Snow fell in thick sheets, driven sideways by wind that howled between buildings. The street was invisible under at least 8 inches of fresh powder, and more was falling every second. There wasn't a single car moving, not one. The road was a blank canvas of undisturbed white. Daniel's car was parked on the street half a block away. He could barely see its snow-covered outline through the storm. He pulled Emma's blanket up over her head to protect her from the wind and started walking. The cold was brutal. Within seconds, his face was numb, his eyes streaming. The snow was already over his boots, soaking through his jeans. Each step was a fight against wind that tried to push him backward. Emma made a small sound against his chest, and he held her tighter. Almost there, baby. Just a little further. The half-block felt like a mile. By the time he reached his car, his hands were shaking so hard he could barely get the key in the lock. Snow had piled against the driver's side door. He had to kick it clear before he could wrench it open. The interior was freezing. Daniel laid Emma across the back seat, tucking the blanket around her, then climbed into the driver's seat and turned the key. The engine turned over. Once. Twice. Died. No, come on, boss. He tried again. The starter made a grinding sound, protesting, but caught. The engine coughed to life, running rough but running. Daniel cranked the heat to maximum and grabbed the scraper from the passenger seat. Back outside, he attacked the windshield, clearing snow in frantic sweeps. The wipers were frozen solid. He had to chip ice away from them before they'd move. Through the rear window, he could see Emma's small form on the back seat, not moving. His phone buzzed. He ignored it. Finally, windshield cleared enough to see through, wipers grudgingly functional, he threw himself back into the driver's seat and put the car in gear. The wheels spun uselessly. Daniel's heart sank. The car rocked slightly but didn't move forward. He gave it more gas and the wheels whined, digging deeper into the snow. Come on, come on! He tried reverse. Same result. The car was stuck, tires spinning in place, going nowhere. Behind him, Emma coughed weakly. Daniel pulled out his phone with shaking hands and pulled up the rideshare app. Maybe he could get an Uber, a Lyft, anything. No cars available, service suspended due to weather conditions. He tried the other apps. All the same message. Taxi services. No answer. His mind raced through options. The hospital was 6 blocks away, close enough to walk on a normal night, but in this storm, carrying a sick child. The wind alone might knock him over, and Emma was getting worse by the minute. Call an ambulance. That was the answer. Call 911, get professionals who knew what they were doing. He dialed. 911, what's your emergency? My 6-year-old daughter has a high fever and respiratory distress. I need an ambulance to... Sir, I'm sorry, but we're currently experiencing extreme call volume due to the winter storm. All available units are responding to critical emergencies. What's your location? Daniel gave the address, his chest tight. There was typing on the other end. Sir, I'm showing multiple incidents ahead of you in the queue. Current wait time for non-life-threatening calls is approximately 2 to 3 hours. 2 to 3? She can't breathe properly. Is she currently breathing, sir? Yes, but then it's classified as urgent but not immediately life-threatening. I can keep you in the queue, but I strongly recommend seeking alternative transportation if available. The line went dead. Daniel sat there, phone in hand, watching snow pile up on the windshield. The wipers made another labored pass, clearing just enough to show him the impassable street beyond. Emma made another sound, softer, now. He turned to look at her, and his blood went cold. Her lips had a faint blue tinge. He knew what that meant. Oxygen deprivation. Her body couldn't get enough air. Daniel scrambled into the back seat, gathering her into his arms. Her skin was still blazing hot, but her breathing was shallow, rapid, her small chest working too hard for too little air. Stay with me, baby. Stay with me. His phone buzzed again. He glanced at the screen through tears he hadn't realized were falling. Marcus. Daniel. The board is demanding your immediate presence. This is a company-ending crisis. Jennifer. Where are you? Sarah. FBI is asking questions about the breach. They want to talk to you ASAP. The company. His life's work. Everything he'd built from nothing. Every sacrifice he'd made. Every midnight sprint to meet impossible deadlines. 8 years of his life, thousands of people depending on him, $1 billion in value evaporating by the minute, and none of it mattered, not even a little bit, because Emma's breathing was getting shallower, and her lips were getting bluer, and nothing else in the entire world existed beyond this back seat and this moment and this fragile, precious life in his arms. Someone help us, he whispered into the storm. Please, someone help. As if in answer, headlights cut through the snow. A car was coming up the street, moving slowly but moving, a large black SUV with chains on its tires, cutting through the deep snow like it was nothing. Daniel didn't think. He threw open the car door and stumbled into the street. Emma clutched to his chest, one arm raised to flag down the vehicle. Stop! Please stop! The SUV's brake lights flared red. It slid slightly, then came to a halt 20 feet away. The driver's side door opened and a figure emerged. Tall, dressed in an expensive-looking coat, dark hair pulled back, a woman. She took 3 steps toward him, then stopped. Even through the driving snow, even with his vision blurred by wind and panic, Daniel recognized her. Victoria Kane, CEO of Kane Industries, the second-largest tech conglomerate in the region, his company's biggest competitor. A woman he'd met exactly 3 times, all at industry functions, all brief and cordial and forgettable. She was staring at him with an expression he couldn't quite read. Daniel Hayes, she said. It wasn't a question. Please, he said, and his voice broke. My daughter, she can't breathe. I need to get her to the hospital. Please. Victoria's eyes dropped to the small bundle in his arms. Emma chose that moment to cough, a terrible wet sound that made Daniel's whole body flinch. Something shifted in Victoria's face. "Get in the car," she said. "Now." Daniel didn't hesitate. He ran for the SUV's back door, wrenched it open, slid inside with Emma still in his arms. The interior was warm, leather seats, the faint smell of expensive perfume. Victoria was already back in the driver's seat, putting the car in gear. "Which hospital?" "St. Catherine's, 6 blocks east on—" "I know where it is." The SUV lurched forward, chains biting into the snow. They were moving. Daniel sagged back against the seat, Emma cradled against him. Her breathing was still bad, still too fast and too shallow, but they were moving. Someone was helping. They had a chance. "Thank you," he said. "Thank you so much." Victoria didn't respond. Her eyes were fixed on the road ahead, her jaw set in concentration as she navigated through the storm. The windshield wipers were fighting a losing battle against the snow, but the SUV kept going, steady and sure. They made it half a block before Victoria spoke again. "I was coming to see you," she said. Daniel blinked. "What?" "Your company, Hayes Tech Solutions. Your system failure." She glanced at him in the rearview mirror. "It's not just your problem anymore. Your platform handles authentication for 16% of Kane Industries' customer base. When your system went down, it took ours with it. I've got $300 million in potential losses piling up by the minute." The words took a moment to penetrate. When they did, Daniel almost laughed. Would have laughed if the situation wasn't so absurd. "You came here in a blizzard to demand I fix a system failure." "Yes." "My daughter might be dying." Victoria's hands tightened on the steering wheel. "I can see that." They drove in silence for another block. The storm was getting worse, if anything, visibility dropping to almost nothing. Daniel couldn't see more than a few feet beyond the windshield, but Victoria drove with the confidence of someone who knew exactly where she was going, who wouldn't let something as trivial as a blizzard stop her. Emma stirred against him. "Daddy?" "I'm here. Baby. We're almost there. Just hang on a little longer." "I'm scared." "I know. Me too. But you're going to be okay. I promise." It was a promise he had no right to make, but he made it anyway because that's what fathers did. Victoria took a corner too fast and the SUV fishtailed slightly. She corrected smoothly, never slowing down. "How old is she?" Victoria asked quietly. 6. "What's her name?" "Emma." Another block. Daniel could see lights ahead, the hospital, getting closer. "I have a brother," Victoria said suddenly. "Had. He died when I was 12, leukemia. Took 8 months. Her voice was flat, emotionless. "Watching someone that small suffer is—" She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to. They pulled up to the emergency room entrance and Victoria threw the car into park. Daniel was already moving, shouldering the door open, carrying Emma toward the bright lights of the hospital entrance. Behind him, he heard Victoria's door slam, footsteps crunching in snow. The automatic doors slid open and blessed warmth hit his face. The ER waiting room was chaos. People everywhere, every chair full, the desk mobbed with desperate voices. Daniel pushed through to the front, not caring who he displaced. "My daughter, 6 years old, high fever, respiratory distress, lips are turning blue." The nurse behind the desk looked up, saw Emma, and her expression changed instantly. "Code blue, pediatric respiratory distress," she called over her shoulder, already coming around the desk. "I need a gurney and oxygen now." Things happened fast after that. A gurney appeared. Hands took Emma from his arms. He didn't want to let go, but forced himself to. A doctor was suddenly there, pressing a stethoscope to Emma's chest, firing questions. "How long has she had the fever?" "She was fighting a cold for 3 days, but the fever spiked tonight, 103.8 when I checked." "Any history of respiratory illness? Asthma?" "No, nothing." They were moving, wheeling Emma down a hallway. Daniel followed, his wet boots squeaking on the linoleum. "Sir, you need to stay in the waiting area," a nurse said, putting a hand on his arm. "That's my daughter, and we need space to work, please. We'll update you as soon as we can." They disappeared through a set of double doors. Daniel stood there, dripping melted snow on the floor, staring at where Emma had vanished. A hand touched his shoulder. He turned to find Victoria standing there, her coat also soaked, her usually perfect hair disheveled and damp. "She's getting help now," Victoria said. "That's what matters." Daniel nodded numbly. The adrenaline that had carried him through the last hour was draining away, leaving nothing but bone-deep exhaustion and terror. His phone buzzed. He pulled it out with shaking hands. 43 missed calls, 86 text messages. The screen was a wall of notifications from his entire leadership team, all variations on the same theme: catastrophic failure, total collapse. "Where are you? We need you now." And one new message from a number he didn't recognize. "You should have stayed at your desk, Daniel. Now you'll lose everything. And everyone will know you destroyed it yourself." He stared at the message, his blood going cold. "What is it?" Victoria asked. Daniel turned the phone so she could see. Victoria's expression hardened. "This wasn't an accident. Someone planned this." "Yeah." Daniel's voice sounded hollow even to himself. "Someone wants me destroyed, and they're doing a damn good job." His phone rang. Marcus. Again. Daniel almost didn't answer, but something made him swipe to accept. "Daniel, thank God. Listen to me very carefully. The FBI just showed up. They have evidence that you initiated the system breach. Transaction logs, authorization codes, everything. They're calling it corporate sabotage, and they want to bring you in for questioning immediately." "That's insane. I didn't do any of this." "I know. We all know. But the evidence is airtight. Someone went to extraordinary lengths to frame you." Marcus's voice dropped. "They're issuing a warrant for your arrest. You need to get ahead of this. You need a lawyer, and you need one now." Daniel closed his eyes. "I'm at the hospital with Emma. I know this is terrible timing, but Daniel, if you don't get in front of this, I don't care." The words came out harder than he intended. "My daughter might have pneumonia. The FBI can wait." He ended the call. Victoria was watching him with an expression he couldn't quite read. "They're coming for you. Let them. You built that company from nothing. You're just going to let it die?" Daniel looked at her, this woman who'd driven through a blizzard to demand he save her profit margins, who probably thought he was weak or stupid or both for choosing this hospital over his crumbling empire. "I already made my choice," he said. "I chose Emma. Everything else is just noise." For a long moment, Victoria said nothing. Then quietly, "When my brother got sick, my parents had to choose too. Between his treatment and keeping our company afloat. They chose the company. Said they had to, that too many people depended on them, that they'd make it up to him later." She looked away. "There was no later. He died, and they had their company, and I spent the next 20 years watching them pretend it was worth it." Daniel didn't know what to say to that. They stood there in the fluorescent brightness of the ER waiting room, two people who should have been enemies, united by this strange moment of crisis. "Mr. Hayes?" A doctor was approaching, young, female, her expression professionally neutral. Daniel's heart stopped. "Emma is stable. We've got her on oxygen and started IV antibiotics. You were right to bring her in when you did. She has pneumonia in both lungs. Another hour or two and we'd be having a very different conversation." The relief was so powerful Daniel had to lock his knees to keep from collapsing. "She's going to be okay?" "She's critically ill, but we caught it in time. We're admitting her to the pediatric ICU for monitoring. You can see her in a few minutes." The doctor walked away. Daniel stood there shaking. Victoria's hand was still on his shoulder. He'd forgotten it was there. "She's alive," Victoria said softly. "You saved her." "Barely. Barely counts." Daniel's phone buzzed again. He looked down at the screen and saw a news alert. Hayes Tech Solutions in complete collapse. CEO under investigation for sabotage. His company, his reputation, his entire professional life circling the drain. And he felt nothing but gratitude that Emma was breathing. "I need to call my lawyer," he said eventually. "No." Victoria pulled out her own phone. "You need to let me call mine. Trust me, you can't afford the legal team you're going to need for this." "Why would you help me?" Victoria looked at him with those sharp, calculating eyes that had probably intimidated 1,000 boardrooms. Because somebody orchestrated this. Somebody with resources and access and a serious grudge. And I don't like watching innocent people get destroyed. She paused. Also, if your company dies, mine takes a significant hit. You're hot. I'm not entirely altruistic here. Despite everything, Daniel almost smiled. A nurse appeared. Mr. Hayes, you can see your daughter now. 5 minutes only. She needs rest. Daniel followed her through the double doors, down a corridor that smelled of antiseptic and floor wax, into a small room dominated by medical equipment. Emma was there. So small in the hospital bed, oxygen mask covering half her face, IV in her arm, monitors beeping steadily. But her eyes were open, and when she saw him, she lifted one small hand. Hi, Daddy. Daniel crossed to her in 3 strides and took her hand gently. Hi, baby. How are you feeling? Tired. The mask is itchy. I know, but it's helping you breathe better. You need to keep it on, okay? She nodded sleepily. Her fever had broken. He could see it in her eyes, clearer now, less glassy. Daddy, are you in trouble? The question hit him like a punch to the gut. Why do you ask that? You look worried, like when I broke your laptop. He managed to laugh. Yeah, I'm in a bit of trouble, but nothing I can't handle. You just focus on getting better. Okay. Her eyes were already drifting closed. Love you, Daddy. Love you too. Her eyes were Emma Bear. So much. He stayed until she fell asleep, her small hand relaxed in his, the monitors singing their steady rhythm. Alive. Safe. Everything else could burn down, and it wouldn't matter because she was alive and safe. When he finally left the room, Victoria was waiting in the hallway, her phone to her ear. Don't care what it costs. I want the best defense team money can buy, and I want them working on this by morning. She paused, listening. No, he's not a client. Consider it a personal favor to me. Another pause. Daniel Hayes, Hayes Tech Solutions. Yes, that one. Call me when it's arranged. She ended the call and looked at Daniel. My lawyer is assembling a team. They'll contact you first thing in the morning. I can't afford... I'm covering it. Consider it an investment in keeping a valuable business partner alive. We're not partners. Yet. Victoria's smile was sharp. But you're about to need allies, Daniel. And I happen to need someone who understands your system architecture well enough to figure out who broke it and how. Seems like a mutually beneficial arrangement. Daniel should have been suspicious, should have questioned her motives, should have been thinking 10 steps ahead the way he always did in business. But he was too tired, too wrung out, too grateful to be anything but honest. Thank you, he said, for everything. The ride, the lawyer, all of it. I don't know why you're helping me, but thank you. Victoria's expression softened slightly, because sometimes the right thing and the profitable thing align, and because I remember what it's like to watch someone who matters fight for breath. She glanced back toward Emma's room. Get some rest. Tomorrow the real fight starts. She walked away, her heels clicking on the linoleum, leaving Daniel alone in the fluorescent hallway. His phone buzzed one more time. Another message from the unknown number. Tick-tock, Daniel. By morning, there won't be anything left to save. Daniel stared at the message for a long moment. Then he typed back, Try me. Somewhere in his company, in his code, in the digital architecture he knew better than anyone alive, there was evidence, a trail, a mistake. Someone had done this, and someone always left traces. He'd find them. But first, he needed coffee, and probably a place to sit down before he fell down. Tomorrow, he'd start rebuilding. Tonight, he'd survived. And for now, that would have to be enough. The hospital coffee was worse than Daniel expected, which was saying something. He sat in a plastic chair in the ICU waiting area at 4 a.m, holding a styrofoam cup of what the vending machine optimistically called premium roast, watching it cool to room temperature because he couldn't bring himself to drink it. His phone hadn't stopped buzzing in 2 hours. The news had broken everywhere. Tech blogs, financial sites, even mainstream media had picked up the story. Hayes Tech Solutions in freefall, founder accused of sabotage. The headlines got worse from there. Someone had leaked internal documents, partial code snippets that made it look damning, screenshots of authorization logs with his credentials plastered all over them. His email inbox was a disaster. Reporters requesting comment, investors demanding explanations, customers threatening lawsuits. And buried somewhere in that avalanche of chaos were probably a few messages from people who actually gave a damn. But he couldn't find them and didn't have the energy to look. Emma was sleeping 3 rooms away, her condition stable but still critical. The nurses let him check on her every hour. Each time he saw her small chest rising and falling steadily under the oxygen mask, something tight in his chest loosened just slightly. Victoria had left an hour ago, saying something about damage control and making calls. Daniel hadn't asked questions. He was still trying to process the fact that his biggest competitor had driven through a blizzard to help him, was paying for his legal defense, and seemed genuinely invested in proving his innocence. Nothing about the last 6 hours made sense. His phone rang. Not a text this time. An actual call. Marcus Webb. Daniel answered. Tell me something good. I can't. Marcus sounded like he'd aged 10 years. Daniel, it's bad. Really bad. We've lost 60% of our customer base in the last 3 hours. They're jumping ship to competitors. The ones who aren't leaving are threatening breach of contract lawsuits. Our stock price has tanked so hard they suspended trading. What about the technical team? Any progress on isolating the damage? We've managed to stop the bleeding barely, but the corruption is extensive. We're looking at weeks of recovery work, maybe months, and that's assuming we can even prove the system is secure enough to trust again. Marcus paused. The board wants to suspend you pending investigation. Daniel laughed, a sound with no humor in it. Of course they do. I fought them on it. So did Jennifer and Sarah. But we're outvoted. As of 6 a.m., you're officially on administrative leave. They're appointing an interim CEO. Who? Richard Chen. Daniel's grip on the phone tightened. Richard Chen, the board member who'd opposed every major decision Daniel had made for the last 2 years, who'd wanted to take the company in a more conservative direction, which was code for strip mining it for short-term profits and selling off the pieces. They're going to gut everything we built, Daniel said quietly. I know. I'm sorry. I tried to stop it. It's not your fault. Daniel rubbed his eyes with his free hand. What about the breach? Any leads on who actually did this? Sarah's team is working around the clock. So far nothing concrete, but she says the attack was sophisticated. Whoever did this had deep knowledge of our systems, knew exactly which vulnerabilities to exploit. It wasn't some script kiddie or external hacker. This was someone with inside access. So, we're looking for an insider. Yeah. But that could be anyone. We have 300 employees with varying levels of system access. A nurse walked past, giving Daniel a look that suggested he should keep his voice down. He nodded apologetically. Keep digging, he told Marcus. I don't care what it takes. Find me a name. What are you going to do? Daniel looked down at the cold coffee in his hand. Right now? Stay here and make sure my daughter doesn't die. Everything else is secondary. The FBI wants to talk to you, soon. Let them wait. He ended the call and finally took a sip of the coffee. It was exactly as terrible as it looked. Footsteps approached. Daniel glanced up to see Victoria returning, carrying 2 actual cups of coffee from what looked like a real coffee shop. She handed him one. Figured you could use an upgrade, she said, settling into the plastic chair beside him. Daniel took a cautious sip. It was good, really good. Where did you even find this? Everything's closed. I know a place. Owner owes me a favor. Victoria wrapped both hands around her own cup. How's Emma? Stable, sleeping. The doctors say if she makes it through the next 12 hours without complications, she should be okay. That's good. They sat in silence for a moment. The waiting area was nearly empty now. Just one other family camped out in the corner, speaking in hushed tones. I talked to my legal team, Victoria said eventually. They're assembling a file. Tomorrow morning, they'll meet with you and start building your defense. Against what exactly? The FBI hasn't even charged me with anything yet. They will, and when they do, we need to be ready. Victoria set her coffee down. I also have my tech people looking into the breach, independently of your team. Daniel turned to look at her. Why? Because your team is compromised. Someone inside your company did this, which means you can't trust anyone there completely. My people are outside the blast radius. They can be objective. It made sense, even if Daniel hated admitting it. And what do you get out of this? Victoria's smile was thin. Right now? The satisfaction of proving I was right. About what? That you didn't do this. I've competed against you for 4 years, Daniel. I know how you work. You're meticulous, paranoid about security, borderline obsessive about code quality. If you wanted to sabotage something, you'd never leave this many fingerprints. Whoever framed you either doesn't know you well or was counting on everyone else not knowing you well enough to question it. Daniel absorbed that. You really think we can prove I'm innocent? I think we have to, because if we don't, Hayes Tech dies, Kane Industries takes a massive hit, and whoever orchestrated this gets away with corporate murder. Victoria picked up her coffee again. Also, I'm extremely competitive and I hate losing. Despite everything, Daniel felt something close to a smile. You're a piece of work, you know that? So I've been told. His phone buzzed again. Daniel ignored it. You should answer that, Victoria said. Could be important. Kote. It's all important. That's the problem. But he looked anyway. It was a text from Sarah Chen, his head of security. Not part of the avalanche of crisis messages, just a simple line. Found something. Call me when you can. Secure line only. Daniel's pulse quickened. He stood up. I need to make a call, private. Victoria nodded and went back to her coffee. Victoria nodded and went back too. Daniel walked down the hallway until he found an empty consultation room, closed the door, pulled up Sarah's number, and called from the encrypted app they used for sensitive communications. She answered on the first ring. You alone? Yeah, what did you find? A thread. Maybe nothing, maybe everything. I've been analyzing the attack pattern, looking for signatures, anything that might tell us who wrote the malicious code. Sarah's voice was tight with focus. The worm that took down our system is sophisticated, really sophisticated, but there's something familiar about it. The way it propagates, the specific vulnerabilities it exploited. I've seen this pattern before. Where? 6 months ago. We had a minor security incident, remember? Someone tried to breach our customer database, but the attempt failed. We flagged it as an external probe and moved on. Daniel did remember, vaguely. You think it's connected? I think it was a test run. Someone trying to map our defenses, figure out how to get through them. The code signatures match. Same author, same methodology, just more refined. Did we identify who was behind the first attempt? No, it was too sophisticated, covered its tracks too well. But here's where it gets interesting. Sarah paused. I pulled the access logs from around the time of the initial breach, cross-referenced them with the logs from tonight's attack. There's one person who had unusual access patterns both times. Lots of after-hours logins, accessing systems they didn't normally work with. Who? Alan Torres. The name hit Daniel like a slap. That's impossible. Alan Torres, his vice president of engineering. One of his first hires, back when the company was just Daniel and 3 other guys working out of a cramped apartment. Alan had been with him from almost the beginning, had helped build the core architecture, knew the system better than almost anyone except Daniel himself. I know you trust him, Sarah said gently, but the data doesn't lie. He's the only common denominator. So, Alan wouldn't do this. He's got equity in the company. His whole career is tied up in Hayes Tech. Destroying us destroys him. Unless he's working for someone else, someone who made it worth his while. Daniel's mind was racing. You have proof? I have suspicious access patterns and a matching code signature. It's not enough for a conviction, but it's enough to ask serious questions. Sarah's voice hardened. Daniel, if Alan's dirty, he could still be doing damage. We need to lock him out of the system immediately. Do it. Revoke all his credentials, freeze his access. Don't tell anyone why, just make it happen. Already done. I suspended his accounts before I called you. Good. What else do you need from me? Permission to bring in an outside forensics team, people with no connection to the company who can analyze this objectively. Victoria Kane already offered, her tech team. There was a pause. Victoria Kane is helping you? Long story, but yes, coordinate with her people. And Sarah, be careful. If Alan's involved, he's not working alone. We don't know how deep this goes. Understood. I'll keep you posted. Iwi bam uma. The call ended. Daniel stood in the empty consultation room, staring at his phone, trying to process what he'd just learned. Alan, his friend, his partner in building something from nothing. The guy who'd been at his wedding, who'd brought meals when Emma was born, who'd stayed up for 36 straight hours helping debug a critical system failure 3 years ago. Either Alan had betrayed him, or someone was very good at making it look like he had. Daniel pulled up Alan's number, hesitated, then called anyway. It went straight to voicemail. He tried again. Same result. A cold weight settled in Daniel's stomach. He left the consultation room and headed back to the waiting area. Victoria was still there, now on her own phone, speaking in low, clipped tones. She ended the call when she saw Daniel approaching. "Problem?" she asked. "My head of security thinks she found the insider. My VP of engineering." "Oh." Victoria's eyebrows rose. "That's a significant accusation." "Yeah." Daniel sat down heavily. "And I don't know if I believe it, but the evidence is there." "What are you going to do?" "But talk to him, hear his side. Try to figure out if my instincts about people are as bad as they apparently are." "Your instincts got you this far," Victoria said. "Don't discount them entirely." A doctor emerged from the hallway leading to the ICU. Daniel stood immediately, his heart jumping. "Mr. Hayes, Emma's awake and asking for you." Relief flooded through him. "How is she?" "Responding well to treatment, fever's down, oxygen levels improving. We're cautiously optimistic." The doctor smiled. "She wants to know if you brought her iPad." Daniel almost laughed. If Emma was asking about her iPad, she was definitely feeling better. "Can I see her?" "Absolutely. Just keep it brief. She needs rest." Daniel followed the doctor back to Emma's room. She was sitting up slightly, the oxygen mask replaced with a nasal cannula, her color much better than it had been hours ago. "Hi, Daddy." Her voice was hoarse but stronger. "Hi, baby. How are you feeling?" "Better, but my throat still hurts." She looked around the room. "Where's my iPad?" "At home. But I can bring it next time I come visit." Emma's face fell. "You're leaving?" Just for a little while. I have some work things I need to take care of, but I'll be back soon, I promise." "Is it because of the emergency? The one on your computer?" Daniel sat on the edge of her bed, careful not to disturb the IV. "How did you know about that?" "I heard the people on your computer yelling before we left." Emma picked at the hospital blanket. "Did you fix it?" "Not yet, but I'm working on it." "Are you in trouble?" The question again. Daniel wondered how much she understood, how much 6-year-olds picked up from context and tone even when adults thought they were being subtle. "Some people think I did something bad," he said carefully. "But I didn't, and I'm going to prove that." "Okay." Emma accepted this with the simple faith that children have in their parents. "Will you still come back today?" "Absolutely. Nothing could keep me away." She smiled, then yawned. "I'm tired." "Then sleep. I'll be here when you wake up." By the time he finished the sentence, her eyes were already drifting closed. Daniel sat there for another minute, watching her breathe, memorizing the sight of her safe and alive. Then he stood, kissed her forehead gently, and left. Victoria was waiting in the hallway. "She looks better." "Yeah, the doctors say she should make a full recovery." "That's good news." Victoria checked her phone. "It's almost 6. Sun will be up soon. You should get some rest." "I need to find Alan Torres. The VP you think sabotaged you." "The VP I need to talk to before I believe he sabotaged me." Victoria considered this. "You want company?" Daniel started to say no, then reconsidered. Having a witness might not be a bad idea, especially if things went sideways. "Sure." They took Victoria's SUV. The storm had passed, leaving the city buried under more than a foot of snow. Plows were out now, clearing the main roads, but most side streets were still impassable. The SUV handled it without complaint. Alan lived in a condo building 15 minutes from the hospital. Daniel had been there exactly twice, once for a team barbecue, once to drop off documents when Alan had the flu. The building's parking lot was buried. Victoria parked on the street, and they trudged through knee-deep snow to the entrance. Daniel buzzed Alan's apartment. No answer. He tried again. Still nothing. Could be sleeping, Victoria said. At 6 a.m. after his company imploded overnight? No way. Daniel pulled out his phone and called again, straight to voicemail. A bad feeling was growing in his gut. He buzzed the building manager. After a long wait, a gruff voice answered. Yeah? This is Daniel Hayes. I'm looking for Alan Torres in Unit 412. It's an emergency. Mr. Torres left about 2 hours ago. Saw him loading suitcases into his car. Daniel's blood went cold. Did he say where he was going? Nope. Just said he'd be gone for a while. The intercom went dead. Daniel stared at the building entrance, his mind racing. He ran, Victoria said quietly. Yeah. That's not the behavior of an innocent man. No, it's not. Daniel's phone rang. Sarah Chen again. Tell me you have more, he said by way of greeting. I have more, and you're not going to like it. Sarah's voice was grim. I dug deeper into Alan's finances. 3 days ago, he received a wire transfer for $2 million from an offshore account. Same day, he purchased a one-way ticket to Singapore, departing tonight at 8 p.m. Can you trace the wire transfer? Find out who sent it? Working on it, but these things are designed to be untraceable. It's going to take time. Sarah paused. Daniel, there's something else. I found communication logs. Encrypted messages between Alan and someone outside the company. They're heavily encoded, but I managed to crack a few. They reference the breach, the timing, making sure you'd take the fall. Daniel felt sick. Send me everything you have. Already done. Check your secure email. He pulled up the email on his phone, opened the attachment Sarah had sent. Screenshots of financial records, message logs with timestamps, flight confirmation, and one decoded message that made his blood boil. Hayes is predictable. He'll prioritize the kid over the company. Perfect distraction. They'd counted on him choosing Emma, had timed the whole thing around it. They knew, Daniel said, his voice hollow. They knew about Emma being sick. They planned for it. Victoria leaned over to read the screen. Her expression darkened. That's calculated. Vicious. Daniel scrolled through more messages, piecing together the timeline. The conspiracy had been in motion for months. Careful planning, precise execution, every detail designed to destroy him while leaving no trace back to the real architects. And Alan had been at the center of it. Who was he working with, Daniel asked. Sarah said there's someone else. I don't know yet, Sarah replied through the phone still on speaker. The other party's identity is heavily masked, but whoever they are, they have serious resources. The kind of money and technical capability that comes from a major player. Another tech company? Maybe. Or someone with a grudge and deep pockets. Daniel's mind went through possibilities. Competitors, disgruntled former employees, investors who'd been burned. The list was longer than he wanted to admit. Keep digging, he told Sarah. I'm going to stop Alan from getting on that plane. Daniel, wait. If you confront him directly, you could compromise the investigation. Let the FBI handle it. The FBI thinks I'm the criminal. By the time they shift focus to Alan, he'll be gone. Daniel was already heading back to the SUV. I'm not letting him disappear. Victoria followed. You have a plan? Barely. But I know where he'll be in 14 hours. Oh. They climbed into the SUV. Victoria started the engine. Airport? Airport. But first I need to make a call. Daniel pulled up a number he hadn't used in 2 years. Thomas Brennan, a former FBI agent who now ran a private investigation firm. They'd met at a conference, stayed in touch loosely. Brennan owed him a favor. Daniel had helped recover stolen data in a case Brennan was working. Time to collect. Brennan answered on the third ring, sounding wide awake despite the early hour. Daniel Hayes. Didn't expect to hear from you, especially not today. Saw the news. I'm innocent. Figured. You're too smart to leave that kind of trail. Brennan's tone was matter-of-fact. What do you need? Someone to help me prove it, and maybe stop a fleeing suspect from leaving the country. That's a tall order. You said you owed me. There was a pause. Where are you? Heading to the airport. I've got about 14 hours before my former VP of Engineering boards a plane to Singapore with $2 million in blood money. And you want me to what, exactly? Help me get him talking, on record, before he vanishes. Another pause, longer this time. This is going to cost you. Send me a bill. I'll meet you there. Give me 3 hours to pull some resources together. The call ended. Victoria was already driving toward the highway, navigating through snow-clogged streets with practiced efficiency. You trust this guy? She asked. More than I trust most people right now. Daniel's phone buzzed again. Another news alert. Hayes Tech stock delisted, trading suspended indefinitely. He watched his company die in real time, one headline at a time. His phone rang. Jennifer Park, his COO. Daniel, where are you? The board is going insane. They're demanding you make a statement. Tell the board I'm finding the person who actually destroyed the company. They won't wait. Richard Chen is already talking to reporters, positioning himself as the savior stepping in to clean up your mess. Daniel's jaw tightened. Let him. When I prove Alan Torres orchestrated this whole thing, Chen's going to look like the opportunistic vulture he is. You really think it was Alan? I know it was Alan. I have financial records, message logs, everything. He's running, Jennifer. Literally running. That's not the behavior of someone who's innocent. Jennifer was quiet for a moment. What do you need from me? Keep the company alive, whatever it takes. I'll handle the rest. Daniel, be careful. If you're right about this, you're dealing with people who've already shown they're willing to destroy everything. They won't hesitate to hurt you too. They already did. He ended the call and stared out the window at the snow-covered city sliding past. Somewhere out there, Alan Torres was packing, preparing to flee, thinking he'd won. Daniel was going to make sure he was very wrong about that. Victoria's phone rang through the car's speakers. She answered without looking away from the road. Kane. Ms. Kane, this is Robert Hsu from your legal team. I have preliminary findings on the Hayes Tech situation you wanted me to investigate. Go ahead. It's complicated. The evidence against Mr. Hayes is substantial, but it's also too perfect. Every log entry, every authorization code, every piece of the puzzle fits together without any of the usual inconsistencies you'd expect from genuine digital evidence. Someone went to extraordinary lengths to manufacture a seamless case. That supports Daniel's innocence, Victoria said. It does, but proving it will be difficult. We'll need to demonstrate that the evidence was fabricated, which requires finding the original source, the real perpetrator. Hsu paused. I understand you've identified a potential suspect? We have. Alan Torres, VP of Engineering at Hayes Tech. He received a $2 million wire transfer 3 days ago and has a flight to Singapore tonight. That's promising. If we can intercept him, get him talking, we might be able to unravel the whole conspiracy. Hsu's tone turned cautious. But Ms. Kane, I have to advise against direct confrontation. Let law enforcement handle this. Law enforcement thinks Daniel is the criminal, Victoria said flatly. By the time they pivot, Torres will be gone. We need to act now. Then at least bring professional security. Don't go in alone. Already arranged, Victoria lied smoothly. She glanced at Daniel. Anything else? Just this. Whoever orchestrated this has significant resources and reach. Tread carefully. The call ended. You lied to your lawyer, Daniel observed. I prioritized efficiency over absolute truth. There's a difference. Victoria took an exit ramp, merging onto the highway. Besides, we do have a professional investigator meeting us. That counts. Daniel couldn't argue with that logic. They drove in silence for a while. The sun was coming up now, pale winter light turning the snow-covered landscape gold and white. It should have been beautiful. Instead, it just looked cold. Daniel's thoughts drifted back to Emma, sleeping peacefully in her hospital bed, blissfully unaware of the chaos unfolding around her. She'd asked if he was in trouble, and he'd said he'd prove his innocence. That was a promise he intended to keep. His phone buzzed. Another message from the unknown number that had taunted him earlier. Running won't save you. Neither will your new friend. You're finished, Daniel. Accept it. He showed the message to Victoria. She read it, and her expression hardened. They're watching you. Yeah, question is, who are they? We'll find out. Victoria's voice had gone cold, the tone of someone who'd made a decision and wouldn't be swayed from it. When we get Torres talking, he's going to give us names. All of them. Daniel hoped she was right. They reached the airport 2 hours later. The terminals were chaotic, flights delayed from the storm, crowds of frustrated travelers filling every available space. Victoria parked in short-term parking, and they made their way inside. Thomas Brennan was waiting near the security checkpoint, looking exactly like Daniel remembered. Mid-40s, gray at the temples, sharp eyes that missed nothing. He was dressed in business casual and could have been any traveler except for the way he carried himself. Alert, watchful, ready. "Daniel?" Brennan shook his hand. "You look like hell. Long night." "I bet." Brennan's gaze shifted to Victoria. "And you are?" "Victoria Kane, CEO of Kane Industries." "Ah." Brennan's eyebrows rose slightly. "Interesting alliance." "Mutually beneficial arrangement," Victoria corrected. "Right." Brennan gestured for them to follow. "I've got people positioned at all the international departure gates. Soon as Torres shows up, we'll know. In the meantime, let's talk strategy." They found a quiet corner near an empty gate. Brennan pulled out a tablet and brought up a file. "I've been reviewing the information you sent me. Financial records, message logs, flight details. It's compelling, but it's not enough for an arrest. We need Torres to implicate himself, preferably on record." "How do we do that?" Daniel asked. "We get him talking, appeal to his ego, his fear, whatever motivates him. People who think they've won get careless. They brag. And if we can get him to admit his involvement, even partially, that gives law enforcement something to work with. And if he doesn't talk..." Brennan smiled thinly. "Everyone talks eventually. You just need to find the right pressure point." They spent the next hour planning. Brennan had brought recording equipment, backup personnel, even a contact at airport security who could delay Torres's flight if necessary. It was thorough, professional, exactly what Daniel needed. Victoria made calls, coordinating with her legal team, making sure they had every angle covered. Daniel sat and watched the crowds, his mind churning through scenarios, possibilities, ways this could go wrong. His phone rang. The hospital. His heart stopped. "Mr. Hayes, this is Nurse Patterson from the pediatric ICU. Emma's asking for you again." "Is she okay?" "She's fine, just missing her dad. I told her you'd be back soon, but she's getting a little anxious." Daniel closed his eyes. "Tell her I'll be there in a few hours. Tell her I love her, and I'm bringing her iPad." "Will do, set." The call ended. Daniel looked at the time. 10 a.m. Alan's flight wasn't until 8 p.m. He had time to get back to Emma, to reassure her, to be the father she needed. But if he left now, he might miss Alan, might lose the only chance to prove his innocence. Victoria was watching him. "Go," she said quietly. "What?" "Go see your daughter. We'll handle this." "I can't ask you to..." "You're not asking. I'm telling you." Victoria's expression was firm. "Brennan and I can intercept Torres. You've given us everything we need. Emma needs you more than we do right now." And Daniel wanted to argue, wanted to say he needed to be here, to face Alan himself, to get justice. But Emma's voice echoed in his head. "Are you in trouble, Daddy?" "You'll record everything?" he asked Brennan. "Every word. You'll have it all." Daniel looked at Victoria. "Thank you. Again, thank me by being this for your kid. That's what matters." He left them there, these two near strangers who'd become unlikely allies, and headed back to the parking garage. The drive back to the hospital felt longer than it should have. Daniel's mind kept drifting to the airport, to what was happening there, to whether they'd succeed in breaking Alan. But when he walked into Emma's hospital room and saw her face light up, all of that faded into background noise. "Daddy, you came back!" "Of course I did. I promised." He held up the iPad he'd grabbed from home. "And look what I brought." Emma's eyes went wide. "Can I play games?" "Educational games only, and only for a little while. You need to rest." "Okay." She was already powering it on, her small fingers flying across the screen. The doctors had been right. She was recovering remarkably well. Daniel sat beside her bed and watched her play, feeling something in his chest unclench. His phone buzzed. A text from Victoria. Spotted him, moving into position. Then another, a few minutes later. Intercepted. He's talking. And finally, an hour after that, got everything. "You were right. It goes deeper than we thought." Daniel stared at that last message, his pulse quickening. His phone rang. Victoria. Tell me, he said. She. Matsit. Alan Broke took less pressure than we expected. Victoria's voice was tight with controlled anger. He confessed to everything. The breach, the frame job, all of it. And he gave us the name of his partner, the person who paid him, who orchestrated the whole thing. Who? Victoria told him. The name hit Daniel like a physical blow. It was someone he'd trusted, someone close, someone he'd never in a million years suspected. And suddenly, everything made terrible, perfect sense. Richard Chen, Victoria said through the phone, and the way she said it, flat, certain, damning, made Daniel's stomach turn to ice. Your board member, the one they just appointed as interim CEO. Daniel couldn't speak for a moment. Emma was still playing on her iPad 3 feet away, humming softly to herself, completely oblivious to the fact that her father's world had just tilted on its axis again. That's impossible, he finally managed, though even as he said it, pieces were clicking into place with sickening clarity. Richard has been with the company for 3 years. He's invested. He has stock, board seat, everything. Had stock? Victoria corrected. Past tense. Brennan pulled his trading records while Alan was talking. Chen liquidated his entire position 2 weeks ago. Sold every share through a shell corporation, cleaned out right before the collapse. He made $47 million shorting your company into the ground. The hospital room felt too small suddenly, the walls pressing in. Daniel stood up and walked to the window, keeping his voice low so Emma wouldn't hear. Why? What did I ever do to him? According to Alan, it wasn't personal. It was business. Chen wanted to take Hayes Tech private, strip it for parts, sell off the profitable divisions to the highest bidders. You kept blocking him, so he decided to remove you from the equation entirely. What? Daniel's hand tightened on the phone. He remembered the board meetings, the arguments, Richard's increasingly aggressive pushes to monetize assets and unlock shareholder value. Daniel had fought him every time, believing the company was worth more as a whole than as pieces. He'd been right, but being right hadn't protected him. Where's Alan now? He asked. Airport security has him. Brennan's contacts are holding him on suspicion of fraud. The FBI is being notified as we speak. Victoria paused. But Chen's a different problem. He's legitimate on paper. The interim CEO of a major tech company. He has lawyers, connections, political cover. Taking him down is going to be a lot harder than catching a fleeing engineer. I don't care how hard it is. I know. Neither do I. There was steel in Victoria's voice now. But we need to be smart about this. Chen knows we have Alan by now. He'll be covering his tracks, destroying evidence, preparing his defense. We need to move fast, and we need to move carefully. Emma looked up from her iPad. Daddy, who are you talking to? Daniel forced a smile. Just a friend, baby. Work stuff. Oh, can you help me with this level? 1 second, okay? He turned back to the window, lowering his voice even further. What's the plan? Brennan's coordinating with the FBI. We're sending them everything. Alan's confession, the financial records, the message logs, all of it. But that's just the legal side. We need the court of public opinion, too. Victoria's tone shifted, became more calculated. Chen's been talking to reporters all morning, painting himself as the hero saving your company from your incompetence. We need to flip that narrative before it sets in concrete. How? By telling the truth, loud and public before he can spin it. Victoria was quiet for a moment. I'm calling a press conference, 2 hours from now. You need to be there. Daniel looked at Emma, at her small frame propped up in the hospital bed, still too pale, still hooked up to monitors and IVs. I can't leave her. Daniel, I can't. His voice was firm. Not again. Not for this. Victoria sighed. Then we do it remotely. Video call. Brennan can set it up. But you need to speak, Daniel. You need to tell your side before Chen buries you completely. He knew she was right. Hated that she was right, but knew it anyway. Okay, set it up. I'll be ready. The call ended. Daniel turned back to Emma, who was holding up the iPad with a triumphant expression. I beat it. I beat the level all by myself. 언니. That's great, sweetheart. He sat back down beside her, ruffling her hair gently. You're pretty smart, you know that? I know. She grinned, then her expression turned more serious. Daddy, when can I go home? Soon. The doctors say maybe tomorrow if you keep getting better. Good. I miss my room and Mr. Whiskers. Mr. Whiskers was her stuffed cat, ancient and raggedy and her most prized possession. He misses you too. I'll bring him when I come back tonight. Bob. Emma nodded, satisfied, and went back to her game. Daniel's phone buzzed with an incoming email. Brennan, sending him the video recording of Alan's confession. Daniel opened it with shaking hands. The video showed Alan Torres in what looked like an airport conference room, sitting across from Brennan. Alan looked terrible, pale, sweating, his eyes darting around like a trapped animal. Tell me about Richard Chen, Brennan said on the recording, his voice calm and professional. Alan swallowed hard. He approached me 8 months ago, said he had a business proposition. What kind of proposition? He wanted Hayes Tech destroyed. Not damaged, not weakened, destroyed. Completely. Alan's voice was barely above a whisper. He said Daniel was standing in the way of real profit, that the company was worth more dead than alive under Daniel's leadership. And he offered you money? $2 million up front, another $3 million when the job was done and Daniel was out. Alan looked down at his hands. I didn't want to do it. I swear I didn't. But I have debts, gambling debts, bad investments. I was drowning. Chen knew that. He knew exactly where to press. So you helped him? Yeah, I helped him. Alan's voice cracked. Chen gave me the malicious code. It was sophisticated, really sophisticated, way beyond anything I could write. He had professionals create it, people who knew what they were doing. My job was just to implement it, make it look like Daniel was responsible. Chen fed me all the details. How to use Daniel's credentials, how to time it for maximum damage, how to make sure the evidence was airtight. Brennan leaned forward. The night of the breach, the timing. That was deliberate? Yeah, Chen knew about Daniel's daughter, knew she was sick. He had someone watching Daniel's apartment, monitoring the situation. When Emma's fever spiked, Chen gave me the go-ahead. He said Daniel would be distracted, would choose family over the company. Yeah, would be too scattered to mount an effective defense. Alan's hands were shaking now. We counted on him being human, and it worked. Daniel felt sick listening to it. They'd weaponized his love for his daughter, had turned his most basic parental instinct into a tool for his own destruction. The recording continued. Alan laid it all out. The wire transfers, the shell companies, Chen's plans to carve up Hayes Tech and sell it piece by piece to the highest bidders. How Chen had already lined up buyers, had promised certain board members lucrative consulting positions in the new arrangement. How the whole thing had been orchestrated over months with surgical precision. By the time the video ended, Daniel had heard enough. More than enough. He forwarded the video to his senior team, to his lawyer, to everyone who'd stood by him through this nightmare. Then he sat back and tried to process what he'd just learned. Richard Chen, a man he'd worked alongside for 3 years, who'd shaken his hand, attended company events, sent a card when Emma was born. That man had systematically plotted to destroy everything Daniel had built, and had come within inches of succeeding. The anger that rose in Daniel's chest was hot and fierce, but underneath it was something colder, determination. Chen had made one crucial miscalculation. He'd assumed that destroying Daniel's company would destroy Daniel himself, that a man who'd built everything from nothing wouldn't know how to fight back. He was wrong. Daniel's phone rang. Marcus Webb. Daniel, I just watched the video. My God, I can't believe it. Richard Chen, he was sitting in board meetings yesterday, acting like he was trying to save us, while selling us off for parts behind our backs. Yeah. Daniel kept his voice even. Where are we on the technical recovery? Making progress. We've isolated the corrupted systems, started restoration from clean backups. But it's going to take time, weeks, maybe months, to fully rebuild customer trust. Bonding. We don't have months. Chen's going to try to accelerate the company's collapse, liquidate assets before we can stop him. What can we do? Fight back, publicly. Victoria is setting up a press conference in 2 hours. I need you to pull together a technical breakdown of the breach. Something clear enough for reporters to understand, detailed enough to show this was an inside job. And get Sarah to compile the evidence trail pointing to Chen. On it, Daniel, what about the FBI? What about the... Brennan's coordinating with them. They'll want to talk to you, to Sarah, to anyone with direct knowledge of the breach. Cooperate fully. Give them everything they need. Understood. And Daniel, for what it's worth, I never doubted you. Not for a second. Something tight in Daniel's chest loosened slightly. Thanks, Marcus. That means more than you know. The call ended. Daniel looked at the clock. 90 minutes until the press conference. He needed to prepare, needed to figure out what to say, how to say it. But first he needed to be present for Emma. She'd fallen asleep again, the iPad slipping from her hands. Daniel caught it gently, set it aside, and adjusted her blanket. The monitors showed her vitals steady and strong. She really was getting better. A nurse came in to check Emma's IV. She's doing great, the nurse said quietly. At this rate, we might be able to discharge her tomorrow afternoon. That's good news. Are you doing okay? You look exhausted. Daniel almost laughed. It's been a long couple of days. I saw the news about your company. The nurse gave him a sympathetic look. For what it's worth, my nephew works for you. He says you're a good boss. Fair. That you actually care about people. I try. That counts for something. She left, and Daniel sat there in the quiet hospital room thinking about what counted for something. Money didn't. Not really. Status didn't. The company he'd built, the billion-dollar valuation, the industry awards and magazine profiles. None of that mattered when stacked against Emma's breathing, steady and even, alive. His phone buzzed. A text from Victoria. Conference room secured. Tech setup complete. Ready when you are. Daniel stood, walked into the hallway where he wouldn't disturb Emma, and called Victoria back. Walk me through what's going to happen, he said. Simple format. I'll make an opening statement, establish the facts, then turn it over to you. You tell your story, what happened the night of the breach, why you're innocent, what we've discovered about Chen. Then we take questions. Victoria's voice was brisk, professional. Brennan will be there with the legal team to handle any dicey questions. We'll have the video of Alan's confession ready to screen if needed. Chen will deny everything. Doris? Of course he will. But we're not trying to convince Chen. We're trying to convince everyone else. Investors, customers, the media, the FBI. Once public opinion shifts, Chen's credibility evaporates. He becomes toxic. It made sense, tactically. But Daniel had never been comfortable with public spectacle, with turning his private nightmare into a media event. As if reading his mind, Victoria said, I know this isn't your style, but you don't have a choice. Chen's already controlling the narrative. If we don't counter it now, today, his version becomes the truth. I know. I'll be ready. He ended the call and spent the next hour preparing. Wrote notes, organized his thoughts, rehearsed what he'd say. It felt surreal, preparing to defend himself on camera while his daughter slept 10 feet away, recovering from pneumonia. The dichotomy wasn't lost on him. 2 days ago, his biggest problem had been a product launch timeline. Now he was fighting for his professional life while trying to keep his actual life from falling apart. At exactly 1:45 p.m., Brennan called. We're live in 15 minutes. You ready? As I'll ever be. Brennan sent him a video conferencing link. Daniel opened it on his laptop, adjusted the camera angle, checked the audio. Behind him was just the neutral wall of the hospital hallway. He deliberately avoided showing Emma's room. This was his fight, not hers. The video call connected. Daniel found himself looking at a conference room filled with people. Reporters, cameras, Victoria standing at a podium with Brennan beside her, and the legal team arrayed behind them like a wall of suits. Victoria saw him connect and nodded. We're about to start. You're on mute for now. I'll introduce you when it's time. The press conference began. Victoria stepped up to the podium with the kind of command that came from years of managing boardrooms and billion-dollar deals. Thank you all for coming on short notice. I'm Victoria Kane, CEO of Kane Industries. I'm here today to discuss the situation at Hayes Tech Solutions and to correct several dangerous falsehoods that have been circulating in the media. She had their attention immediately. Cameras focused, reporters leaned forward. 2 days ago, Hayes Tech experienced a catastrophic system failure. The media has reported this as a case of corporate sabotage committed by founder and CEO Daniel Hayes. I'm here to tell you that narrative is not just wrong, it's a deliberate fabrication created to mask the real crime. Victoria pressed a button and a screen behind her lit up with Alan Torres's face, frozen from the confession video. This is Alan Torres, former vice president of engineering at Hayes Tech. This morning, Mr. Torres was intercepted at the airport attempting to flee the country with $2 million in wire transfers from an offshore account. In the presence of witnesses and legal counsel, Mr. Torres confessed to orchestrating the system breach that destroyed Hayes Tech. He also confessed to something far more damning. He didn't act alone. The room erupted. Questions flew from every direction. Victoria held up a hand. I'm going to play you a portion of Mr. Torres's confession. I warn you, what you're about to hear describes a calculated conspiracy to destroy a company and frame an innocent man. She pressed play. Alan's voice filled the room, nervous and guilt-ridden, explaining Richard Chen's involvement, the payoffs, the planning, everything. The reporters went wild. Cameras flashed. People were already on their phones, undoubtedly filing breaking news stories. Victoria let it go for 30 seconds, then spoke over the chaos. Richard Chen, the man currently serving as interim CEO of Hayes Tech, is not a savior. He's a criminal who orchestrated this entire conspiracy for personal profit. We have financial records showing he liquidated his entire position in Hayes Tech 2 weeks before the breach. He made $47 million destroying a company he was supposed to protect. Why? She gestured to Daniel's video feed on the screen behind her. The real CEO of Hayes Tech, Daniel Hayes, is joining us remotely from the hospital where his 6-year-old daughter is recovering from pneumonia. On the night of the breach, Daniel made a choice. He chose his dying child over his dying company. The conspirators counted on that. They weaponized his humanity against him. I'll now turn this over to Daniel to share his account of what happened. Victoria stepped back. Daniel's feed expanded to fill the screen. He looked into the camera, at all those faces watching him, judging him, waiting to decide if he was villain or victim. 2 nights ago, Daniel began, his voice steady despite the tremor in his hands, I woke up to alarms telling me my company was collapsing. And at the same moment, I heard my daughter crying in the next room with a fever of 104 degrees. The doctors later told me that if I'd waited another hour to bring her in, she might not have survived. He paused, letting that sink in. The people who destroyed my company knew about my daughter. They monitored her illness. They timed their attack for the moment when I'd be too distracted to stop it, when I'd have to choose between saving my company and saving my child. They bet that I'd choose Emma. They were right. Daniel's jaw tightened. I'm not going to apologize for that choice. I'd make it again, without hesitation. But I'm going to make sure the people who put me in that position face consequences. Richard Chen orchestrated a multi-million-dollar conspiracy to commit fraud, sabotage, and corporate theft. He framed me for his own crimes. He destroyed thousands of jobs, billions in shareholder value, and violated the trust of millions of customers. And he did it all for profit. The reporters were silent now, listening. I built Hayes Tech from nothing. 3 guys in an apartment, living on ramen and optimism. We grew it into something real, something that mattered, something that employed 300 people and served 18 million customers. Richard Chen saw that and decided it was worth more dead than alive. He was wrong, and I'm going to prove it. Daniel looked directly into the camera. To everyone who worked for Hayes Tech, who believed in what we were building, this isn't over. We're going to rebuild. We're going to come back stronger. And we're going to make sure the people who tried to destroy us face justice. He nodded to Victoria. That's all I have to say. The questions erupted immediately. Mr. Hayes, are you filing criminal charges against Richard Chen? Will Hayes Tech survive this? Do you have proof of Chen's involvement beyond Torres's confession? Victoria fielded them smoothly, with Brennan jumping in on the legal questions. They showed financial records, transaction logs, message trails. Built the case piece by piece in front of the cameras. Daniel watched it unfold from his hospital hallway, feeling something shift. The narrative was changing. He could see it in the reporters' faces, in the questions they asked, in the way they'd stopped treating him like a criminal and started treating him like a victim. Chen had made his play in the darkness, counting on confusion and misdirection. But dragged into the light, his conspiracy looked exactly like what it was: greed and betrayal wrapped in corporate speak. The press conference went on for 45 minutes. By the time it ended, Daniel's phone was already exploding with messages. Investors wanting to talk, customers expressing support, board members who'd abandoned him now, scrambling to get back in his good graces. He ignored most of it, but one message caught his eye. From Jennifer Park. Daniel, emergency board meeting called for 4 p.m. They want to reinstate you as CEO and remove Chen immediately. Can you dial in? Daniel smiled grimly. 12 hours ago, they'd suspended him. Now they wanted him back. Typical. He texted back, "I'll be there." Victoria called. "That went well?" "Better than expected." Chen's already released a statement denying everything. His lawyers are threatening defamation suits. Victoria sounded amused. "It's desperate, predictable, but desperate. What's next?" The FBI's moving fast. They've opened a formal investigation into Chen. With Allen's testimony and the financial evidence, they have probable cause for fraud charges. Chen's going to be arrested, probably within the next 24 hours. Daniel felt a savage satisfaction at that. "Good. The board wants to reinstate you." "Yeah, I got the message. I'm not sure I want it back." Victoria was quiet for a moment. "What do you mean?" "I mean, I built that company and it nearly cost me everything that actually matters. My daughter almost died while I was obsessing over code and growth metrics. Maybe that's a sign I had my priorities backwards. Or maybe it's a sign you're human." Victoria's voice was softer now. "Daniel, you didn't cause this. Chen did. Torres did. You were just trying to build something good. And look how that turned out. It's not over yet. You still have a chance to save it. The question is whether you want to." Daniel looked through the window at Emma, still sleeping peacefully. "I don't know. I honestly don't know. Oh, sure. Be cheat. Then figure it out. You have until 4 p.m. Victoria paused. "For what it's worth, I think you should fight. Not for the company, for what it represents. If you walk away now, Chen wins. He doesn't go to jail for destroying a company that died. He goes to jail for trying and failing. There's a difference." She had a point. They ended the call and Daniel went back into Emma's room. She was awake now, watching something on her iPad. "Hey baby, how are you feeling?" "Better. The nurse said I can have real food for dinner, not just broth." "That's great." Daniel sat beside her bed. "Can I ask you something?" "Uh-huh. If Daddy had to make a choice between being with you more or working a lot to run his company, which would you want?" Emma looked up from her screen, her expression serious. "With me more." "Yeah?" "Yeah, work is boring. And you're always on your computer when you're working. You're more fun when you're not working." Daniel felt something crack open in his chest. "You're right. I am more fun when I'm not working. So stop working so much." Emma said it like it was the simplest thing in the world, because to her it was. "I'll try, sweetheart. I really will." His phone buzzed. Marcus. "Chen's lawyering up. Big firm, serious firepower. This is going to be a fight." Sarah. "FBI just left. They interviewed half the team. They're building a case against Chen, but it's going to take time." Jennifer. "Board meeting in 90 minutes. They need an answer from you. Are you coming back or not?" Daniel stared at the messages, then at Emma, then back at the messages. Victoria was right. He needed to figure out what he wanted. But for the first time in his adult life, he wasn't sure. At 3:45 p.m., Daniel logged into the board meeting from his laptop, still in the hospital hallway. The screen filled with faces, board members in various locations, all looking at him with expressions ranging from apologetic to demanding. Richard Chen wasn't there. His seat was conspicuously empty. The board chair, Margaret Lyons, spoke first. "Daniel, thank you for joining us. I want to start by saying that the board owes you an apology. We acted hastily in suspending you. The evidence against you seemed compelling, But we should have given you the benefit of the doubt. You should have, Daniel agreed flatly. Margaret winced. Yes, well, we're here to correct that mistake. The board has voted unanimously to reinstate you as CEO, effective immediately. We've also voted to remove Richard Chen from the board and from his interim position pending the outcome of the criminal investigation. Bit late for that, don't you think? Better. Daniel, please. This from another board member, James Kowalski. We know you're angry. You have every right to be. But the company needs you. The customers need you. The employees need you. Without you, Hayes Tech doesn't exist. It barely exists now. Chen's conspiracy saw to that, which is why we need you to save it. Margaret leaned forward. You built this company. You know it better than anyone. You can rebuild the trust, restore the systems, get us back on track. But only if you're willing to come back and lead. Daniel looked at their faces. These people who'd thrown him overboard at the first sign of trouble and were now begging him to climb back on the sinking ship. I have conditions, he said. They looked at each other nervously. What kind of conditions? First, I want complete autonomy over company decisions. No more second guessing, no more voting down my proposals. You hired me to run this company, so let me run it. Agreed. Second, anyone who voted to keep Chen as interim CEO after the news about his conspiracy broke is off the board. Immediately. There was sputtering protest. Daniel cut through it. There was. You had the evidence. You saw the confession. You knew he was guilty, and you wanted to keep him in charge anyway because you thought it would protect your investments. That tells me your judgment is compromised. So, you're out. Margaret looked pained. Daniel, that's half the board. Then replace them with people who have integrity. I'll be happy to help vet candidates. More protests. Daniel waited them out. Finally, Margaret sighed. Anything else, Oz? Yes, I'm restructuring my role. I'll come back as CEO, but I'm delegating more, hiring a COO to handle day-to-day operations. I'm keeping strategy and vision, but I'm not working 18-hour days anymore. I have a daughter who needs me. That's reasonable. And one more thing. I want an independent investigation into everyone who worked closely with Chen. His secretary, his assistants, anyone who might have been complicit. We root out every bit of rot, or I walk. The board looked at each other, nodded. Agreed, Margaret said. All of it. You have our full support, Daniel. Please, come back and save what you built. Daniel looked at them for a long moment. Then he nodded once. Okay, I'll come back, but this is the last time I save this company. Next time it's in trouble, you fix it yourselves. The meeting ended. Daniel closed his laptop and sat back against the wall, emotionally exhausted. His phone rang immediately. Victoria, I heard you're back. News travels fast. Always does. How do you feel? Tired, angry, determined. Daniel rubbed his face. Like I just agreed to rebuild a house that burned down while the arsonist watches from across the street. The arsonist's going to jail. Allegedly, he hasn't been arrested yet. He will be. The FBI doesn't move fast, but they move thoroughly. Chen's done. Daniel hoped she was right. They talked strategy for a while, damage control plans, customer retention, media management. Victoria had insights on all of it, hard-won from her own years running a major corporation. She was generous with her advice in a way that surprised him. Why are you helping me? He asked eventually. I mean really helping, not just the business justification. Victoria was quiet for a moment. Because watching you choose your daughter over your company reminded me of something I'd forgotten. That there are things more important than winning. And because my brother died while my parents chose their business over him, and I swore I'd never become them. Helping you is helping myself remember that. It was the most vulnerable thing she'd said to him. Daniel didn't quite know how to respond. Thank you, he said finally, for everything. I couldn't have survived this without you. You would have found a way. You're stubborn like that. There was warmth in her voice, but you're welcome anyway. The call ended. Daniel went back into Emma's room. She was sitting up, eating dinner, actual solid food, chicken and rice and vegetables. She looked so much better than she had 36 hours ago that it made his chest ache with relief. "Daddy, look, real food." "I see that. Is it good?" "It's okay. Not as good as your cooking, though." Daniel laughed. "My cooking is mostly takeout with extra steps. I like it anyway." He sat with her while she ate, helping her with the trickier bites, wiping her face when she spilled. Normal dad things, things that mattered more than any board meeting or press conference. His phone buzzed. A news alert. Breaking. Former Hayes Tech Board member Richard Chen arrested on fraud and conspiracy charges. Daniel opened the article. Chen had been taken into custody an hour ago at his home. The FBI had moved faster than expected. Charges included wire fraud, conspiracy to commit fraud, corporate sabotage, and about 6 other felonies that Daniel didn't even fully understand. Bail had been set at $5 million. Daniel showed Emma the headline. "Remember, I said some people thought Daddy did something bad?" "Yeah. Well, we found out who really did it, and now he's in trouble instead." "Good." Emma said it with the simple moral clarity of a 6-year-old. Bad people should face consequences. It should have been that simple for everyone. The next few hours passed in a blur. Doctors came to examine Emma, declared her recovery progressing excellently. Nurses changed her IV, checked her vitals. Daniel fielded calls from Marcus and Jennifer, coordinating the company's response to Chen's arrest. By 8 p.m., Daniel was falling asleep in his chair. A nurse noticed and brought him a pillow. "You should go home, get real rest," she said gently. "I'm staying here." "She's going to be fine." "You heard the doctors." "I know, but I'm still staying." The nurse smiled and left him alone. Daniel dozed off sometime after 9. Emma's soft breathing the last thing he heard before sleep claimed him. He woke to his phone ringing. Disoriented, Daniel grabbed for it, checking the time. 11:47 p.m. The caller ID said Thomas Brennan. "Yeah," Daniel answered groggily. "Sorry to wake you, but you need to hear this." Brennan sounded grim. "Chen made bail, posted it an hour ago. He's out." Daniel sat up fully now, alert. "How? Who paid $5 million for his bail?" "We're trying to figure that out. It came through another shell corporation, layers of legal entities. Whoever bailed him out has serious resources and doesn't want to be identified." A cold feeling settled in Daniel's stomach. "He's running. Maybe. Or maybe he's planning something else. Either way, I've got people watching him. If he so much as jaywalks, we'll know about it. I want to know where he goes, who he talks to, everything." "You got it." The call ended. Daniel sat there in the dark hospital room, listening to Emma breathe, thinking about Richard Chen walking free somewhere in the city. The man who'd tried to destroy him was still out there, still dangerous, still capable of anything. Daniel's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "You won the battle, Hayes, but the war isn't over. Not even close." He stared at the message, his blood running cold. Then another message, a photo this time. It showed Daniel's apartment building, taken from across the street, recent, based on the snow piled outside. A third message, "Sleep well." Daniel's hands were shaking. Someone was watching him, threatening him, even now, even after everything. He forwarded the messages to Brennan, to the FBI contact who'd interviewed him earlier. Then he stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the dark city. Somewhere out there, Richard Chen was planning his next move, and Daniel had no idea what it would be. But he knew one thing with absolute certainty. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Daniel didn't sleep the rest of that night. He sat in the chair beside Emma's bed, phone in hand, watching the door like something might come through it at any moment. Every footstep in the hallway made his pulse spike. Every shadow made him tense. The threatening messages sat in his phone like poisoned darts. Someone knew where he lived. Someone was watching. And that someone had enough money to post $5 million in bail for Richard Chen without blinking. At 6 a.m., Brennan called back. Chen went straight to a private airfield outside the city. My guys followed him. Brennan's voice was tight. He met with someone there. Couldn't get close enough for photos, but it was a woman. Tall, expensive clothes, private jet on the tarmac. Did he get on the plane? No, they talked for about 20 minutes, then she left. Chen went back to his penthouse. Brennan paused. Daniel, whoever bailed him out has serious resources. Private jets, shell corporations, The ability to move millions of dollars invisibly. This isn't some angry investor. This is organized. Daniel's mind was racing. You think Chen's working for someone bigger? I think Chen thought he was the mastermind, but he was just middle management. Someone else is pulling strings. Brennan's tone darkened, and they're not happy their plan fell apart. What do we do? You? Nothing. You stay with your daughter and let us handle this. The FBI's watching Chen now. If he makes a move, they'll know. Daniel wanted to argue, but Brennan was right. He couldn't hunt conspiracies from a hospital room. And more importantly, Emma needed him here. Keep me posted, Daniel said. Will do. And Daniel, watch your back. Whoever sent those messages wanted you scared. Don't give them the satisfaction. The call ended. Daniel looked at Emma, still sleeping peacefully, her face relaxed and healthy looking. The oxygen cannula had been removed during the night. She was breathing fine on her own now. A doctor came in at 7 a.m. for morning rounds. She examined Emma thoroughly, checked her charts, listened to her lungs. Remarkable recovery the doctor said. If she continues like this, I'll sign discharge papers this afternoon. Relief flooded through Daniel. She can come home today? Looks like it. We'll keep monitoring her through lunch, but barring any setbacks, yes. The doctor smiled. She's a fighter, your daughter. Yeah, she is. Emma woke up shortly after, groggy but smiling. Daddy, the doctor said I can go home. I heard. How do you feel? Oh, good. Hungry. She paused. Can we get pancakes on the way home? Daniel laughed, the first genuine laugh he'd had in days. We can definitely get pancakes. His phone buzzed. Victoria. Morning, she said. Saw the news about Chen making bail. You okay? Define okay? Fair point. Victoria's voice shifted to business mode. I've been thinking about who might have bailed Chen out. It's not just the money. $5 million is significant, but not impossible for a wealthy individual. It's the timing and the discretion. Whoever did this moved fast and covered their tracks exceptionally well. Brennan said Chen met with a woman at a private airfield last night. Yes. Interesting. Victoria was quiet for a moment. I'll make some calls, see if any of my contacts know anything. In the meantime, you should think about security. For yourself and Emma. I can't afford private security. I can. Consider it part of the mutual benefit arrangement. Before Daniel could protest, she continued, I'm sending someone over. Former Secret Service, very good at his job. He'll keep an eye on things until we know what we're dealing with. Victoria Choi. This isn't charity, Daniel. It's pragmatism. If something happens to you, my investment in clearing your name becomes worthless. Let me protect my investment. She hung up before he could argue further. Daniel sat there, torn between gratitude and the uncomfortable feeling of owing someone he barely knew. But Victoria was right. He needed help, and pride wasn't worth Emma's safety. At 9 a.m., Marcus called with an update on the company. Customers are coming back, Marcus said, and Daniel could hear the cautious optimism in his voice. After the press conference, after Chen's arrest, people are giving us another chance. We've had 50,000 reactivations since yesterday. It's not everything we lost, but it's a start. That's good. What about the technical side? Sarah's team is working miracles. We've restored about 60% of the corrupted systems. The rest will take time, but we'll get there. Marcus paused. Daniel, the team wants to know when you're coming back to the office. They need to see you, hear from you directly. The press conference helped, but nothing beats face-to-face. Daniel looked at Emma, who was playing a game on her iPad, humming softly to herself. Soon, he said. Emma's getting discharged today. Once I get her settled at home, I'll come in, maybe tomorrow. That works? Oh, and Daniel? Jennifer's been fielding calls from investors all morning. Some of them want back in. They're talking about an emergency funding round to stabilize operations. At what valuation? Marcus named a number that made Daniel wince. It was a fraction of what the company had been worth a week ago. That's vulture capital, Daniel said flatly. They're trying to buy us for pennies because we're wounded. I know, but we need cash flow. Chen's conspiracy drained our reserves. Customers are demanding refunds. Legal fees are piling up. We might not have a choice. Daniel closed his eyes, thinking, give me 24 hours. I'll find another option. What other option? I don't know yet, but I'll figure something out. He ended the call and immediately dialed Victoria. That was fast, she said. Miss me already? I need advice. Investor advice. Daniel explained the situation, the cash flow crisis, the vulture capitalists circling, the terrible valuation. Victoria listened without interrupting. When he finished, she was quiet for a long moment. How much do you need? She asked finally. To stabilize operations and cover immediate costs? Probably 20 million. And how much control are you willing to give up? Daniel thought about that. None. I just got my company back. I'm not handing pieces of it to people who see it as a distressed asset. Then you need a bridge loan, not an equity investment. Short-term capital to cover the crisis, paid back when you stabilize. Victoria's tone turned calculating. I can structure that. Kane Industries will front the $20 million as a loan, 6-month term, reasonable interest rate, no equity stake required. Daniel's breath caught. Victoria, that's it. Good business. Your company will recover. When it does, I get my money back with interest. And in the meantime, I get preferential access to your technology platform for Kane Industries operations. She paused. It's not charity, Daniel. It's strategy. Why do you keep helping me out? Because you're one of the few people in this industry who isn't a complete sociopath. Victoria's voice softened slightly. And because watching you fight for what matters reminded me why I got into this business in the first place. Before it was just about winning. Daniel didn't know what to say to that. Thank you. Again, I'm going to run out of ways to say thank you. Then stop saying it and start building something worth the investment. They worked out the details over the next hour. Victoria's legal team would draft the paperwork, have it ready to sign by end of business today. The money would hit Hayes Tech's accounts by tomorrow morning. It was more help than Daniel had any right to expect. And yet Victoria was offering it like it was obvious. Like there was no question she'd do anything else. By noon, Emma was officially discharged. Daniel helped her into her coat, packed up her belongings, and carried her out to the car. She was still weak, still needed to take it easy. But the difference from 3 days ago was night and day. On the drive home, Emma chattered about what she wanted to do when she felt better. See her friends at school, play at the park, have a sleepover. Normal kid things that Daniel had almost lost the chance to hear about. He gripped the steering wheel tighter and blinked back tears she wouldn't understand. They stopped for pancakes at Emma's favorite diner. She ordered chocolate chip with whipped cream, ate half, and fell asleep in this booth with syrup on her chin. Daniel cleaned her face gently, paid the bill, and carried her back to the car. His apartment building looked exactly the same as when he'd left it 3 nights ago, but everything felt different now. Daniel carried Emma upstairs, unlocked the door, and stepped into the familiar space that suddenly felt vulnerable. Someone had been watching this building, taking photos, making threats. Daniel set Emma on the couch and immediately checked every window, every lock, every possible entry point. Everything was secure, but the knowledge that someone out there knew where he lived made his skin crawl. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Solomon Gray. Your security. I'm in a black sedan across the street. Don't be alarmed. Daniel went to the window and looked down. Sure enough, there was a black sedan parked with a clear view of the building entrance. The driver, a broad-shouldered man with close-cropped hair, gave a small nod when he saw Daniel looking. Victoria's security. Daniel should have felt relieved. Instead, he just felt tired. Emma stirred on the couch. Daddy, can I have Mr. Whiskers now? Absolutely. Daniel retrieved the battered stuffed cat from her room. Emma hugged it close and smiled. I missed him. He missed you too. Daniel's phone rang. Sarah Chen. Daniel, we have a problem. Sarah's voice was urgent. I've been digging deeper into the conspiracy, trying to figure out who else might be involved. I found something in Chen's communications that you need to see. What is it? Not over the phone. Can you come to the office? Daniel looked at Emma, already drifting off to sleep on the couch. Mr. Whiskers clutched in her arms. I can't leave Emma right now. Then I'm coming to you. This can't wait. Sarah arrived 20 minutes later, laptop under her arm, looking like she hadn't slept in days. Daniel let her in and they sat at the kitchen table while Emma napped in the living room. Sarah opened her laptop and pulled up a series of encrypted messages. I've been breaking down Chen's communications, going back months. Most of it's about the conspiracy, timing, logistics, covering tracks. But there's this other thread, separate conversations with someone he calls the architect. Who's the architect? Ichiri sias iki. That's what I'm trying to figure out. But look at these messages. Sarah clicked through several screens. Chen wasn't in charge. He thought he was, but he wasn't. The architect was giving him orders, telling him what to do, when to do it. Chen was just the visible face of the operation. Daniel read the messages, his stomach sinking with each one. Read the pour. Sarah was right. Chen had been taking orders, reporting back, asking for approval. He'd been a puppet. The woman at the airfield, Daniel said. Brennan said Chen met with a woman last night. That has to be the architect. Maybe, but there's more. Sarah pulled up another file. The architect referenced other projects, other companies they've taken down the same way. This wasn't a one-time thing, Daniel. This is what they do. They identify vulnerable companies, infiltrate them, tear them apart from the inside, and profit from the collapse. That's not corporate espionage, that's organized crime. Exactly, and Hayes Tech was just one target in a long line. Sarah's expression was grim. I found references to 3 other companies in the past 5 years. All tech firms, all destroyed by mysterious internal sabotage, all blamed on their founders. And in every case, after the company collapsed, someone swooped in and bought the pieces for nothing. Daniel felt sick. Who bought them? Different shell corporations every time. But I'm working on tracing the ownership structure. There's a pattern. I just need more time to find it. How much time? A few days? Maybe a week? These things are buried under layers of legal entities, but I'll find it. Sarah closed her laptop. In the meantime, you need to be careful. If the architect realizes we're onto them, they might escalate. They already are. Someone sent me threatening messages last night. Photos of my building. Sarah's face went pale. Daniel, this is serious. These people destroyed 3 companies. They're not going to balk at hurting individuals. I have security now. Victoria Kane arranged it. Good. Keep it. Sarah stood up. I'll keep digging. The moment I find something concrete, you'll be the first to know. She left, and Daniel sat at his kitchen table, staring at nothing. 3 other companies, 3 other founders blamed and destroyed, and now Hayes Tech was number 4. Except this time, the founder had fought back. This time, the conspiracy had been exposed, which meant the architect had a problem. And people with that kind of power didn't like problems. Daniel's phone buzzed. Brennan. Chen's on the move again. Just left his penthouse with 2 suitcases. My guys are following. Where's he going? Don't know yet, but he's in a hurry. Looks spooked. Brennan paused. I think something happened. Someone tipped him off that we're getting close. Daniel's pulse quickened. Stay on him. Don't lose him. We won't. I'll call you when I know more. The hours that followed were agony. Daniel tried to focus on Emma, on being present for her. But his mind kept drifting to Chen, to the architect, to the conspiracy that kept getting bigger and darker the more they uncovered. Emma woke up around 4 p.m., asking for dinner. Daniel made her favorite, mac and cheese with cut-up hot dogs. She ate slowly, still recovering, but finished most of it. Daddy, are we safe here? She asked suddenly. Daniel's heart clenched. Why do you ask that? You keep looking out the window, like you're worried about something. 6 years old and she saw everything. Daniel sat down beside her, choosing his words carefully. I'm making sure we're okay, that's all. Sometimes grown-ups have problems, and we have to be careful until those problems are fixed. Is it because of the bad man, the one who tried to blame you? Basi, Mjiati, sort of, but we have people helping us, and I promise I'm going to keep you safe no matter what. Emma nodded, accepting this. Okay, can I watch TV? Sure, baby. He set her up with the movie and went back to pacing. At 6 p.m., Brennan called. Chen's at another private airfield, different one from last night. He's getting on a plane. Stop him. Can't. He hasn't violated his bail conditions. Leaving the state isn't prohibited, just leaving the country. And this is a domestic flight. He's going to Nevada. Nevada. Why Nevada? Good question. I'm working on it. Brennan's voice was tight. But Daniel, here's what worries me. He's running scared. And scared people make desperate moves. What kind of desperate moves? The kind where they try to tie up loose ends before disappearing. You're a loose end, Daniel. So is everyone who helped expose him. The implication hung in the air like a blade. You think he might come after us? I think someone might. Chen's too high profile now. But the architect? They're still in the shadows, and they have every reason to want you silenced. Brennan paused. I've alerted the FBI. They're taking the threat seriously. In the meantime, stay alert. Don't go anywhere alone. Keep that security close. Daniel looked out the window at the black sedan still parked across the street. Looked out the Solomon Gray, Victoria's security guy, was still there. I will. Koi streets. Good. I'll call you when I know where Chen's plane lands. The call ended. Daniel stood there, phone in hand, feeling the walls closing in. The smart thing would be to take Emma and disappear for a while. Go somewhere Chen and the architect couldn't find them. Lay low until the FBI closed the case. But running meant abandoning his company again. Meant letting the vultures circle and pick apart what he'd built. Meant giving up. And Daniel was done giving up. His phone rang. Victoria. I heard Chen's running. Brennan called me. Yeah, Nevada, apparently. I know, I made some calls. Victoria's voice had a hard edge to it. Chen has a property in Nevada. Lakefront compound outside Reno, bought through a shell corporation 5 years ago. Very private, very secure. He's going to ground. Can the FBI get him there? That's Samits. Can the FBI? Eventually. But it'll take time. Warrants, jurisdictional issues, legal red tape. And time is what we don't have. Victoria paused. Daniel, I've been thinking about the architect. About who has the resources and reach to pull off something this sophisticated. And there are maybe 50 people in the country with that combination of wealth, technical capability, and complete lack of ethics. I'm going through the list, cross-referencing with anyone who might have a grudge against tech companies or a history of predatory investing. That's a long list. It is, but I'll narrow it down. Victoria's tone softened slightly. How's Emma? Good. Watching movies, eating real food, almost back to normal. That's good. Kids bounce back fast. There was something wistful in Victoria's voice. My brother was like that. One day he'd be in the hospital, barely able to move. And the next day he'd be trying to sneak out to play basketball. Drove my parents crazy. Daniel heard the pain underneath the words. I'm sorry you lost him. Me too. Victoria was quiet for a moment. But it taught me something important. That time matters more than things. That being present is worth more than being successful. I didn't understand that for a long time. Spent years chasing the same empty victories my parents did, building an empire and calling it legacy. She paused. Watching you choose Emma over your company reminded me that I was doing it all wrong. Victoria Shah. I'm not looking for reassurance, just stating facts. Anyway, keep your security close. I'll call if I find anything on the architect. She hung up. Daniel stood there processing that conversation. This strange, evolving relationship with a woman who should have been his enemy, but had become something else entirely. An ally. Maybe even a friend. The evening passed quietly. Daniel made Emma dinner, gave her medicine, read her stories until she fell asleep in her own bed for the first time in days. He sat beside her for a while, watching her breathe, memorizing the peaceful expression on her face. His phone buzzed. A text from Brennan. Chen's plane landed in Reno. He's at his compound. FBI is working on a warrant, but it'll take time. Daniel texted back, keep me posted. He checked on Solomon Gray, still in the sedan, still watching the building. Daniel waved. Solomon nodded back. At 11 p.m., Daniel's phone rang. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer, but something made him swipe to accept. Hello? Mr. Hayes. The voice was female, smooth, cultured. We haven't been formally introduced, but I think it's time we talked. Daniel's blood went cold. Who is this? Someone who's very disappointed in how things have unfolded. You were supposed to disappear quietly, Daniel. Take the fall, fade away, let your company die. Instead, you fought back. Made a mess of a very clean operation. The architect. It had to be. What do you want? Daniel kept his voice steady. Realistically, I want you to stop digging, stop investigating, accept that your company barely survived, take the bridge loan from Ms. Kane, rebuild quietly, and never speak of this again. The woman's voice hardened. Because if you don't, the consequences will be severe, not just for you, for everyone you care about. You're threatening my daughter. I'm stating facts. You've made powerful enemies, Mr. Hayes. Enemies with resources you can't imagine. If you continue down this path, people will get hurt. Is your pride really worth that? Daniel's hand tightened on the phone. My pride? You destroyed my company, framed me for crimes I didn't commit, and nearly cost me everything that matters. This isn't about pride. It's about justice. Justice. The woman laughed, a sound like breaking glass. Justice is a fairy tale people tell themselves to feel better about living in a fundamentally unfair world. There is no justice, Mr. Hayes. There's only power. And right now, I have more of it than you. Then why are you calling? If you're so powerful, why warn me at all? There was a pause. Because eliminating you would be inconvenient, messy. It would draw attention I'd rather avoid. So I'm offering you a choice. Walk away now, and you get to keep rebuilding your life. Keep pushing, and you'll lose everything. Again. I've already lost everything once. I survived. I'll survive whatever you throw at me too. Will your daughter? The question was soft, almost gentle. Will Miss Kane? Will all the people who've helped you? Because they'll pay the price for your stubbornness. Daniel felt rage building in his chest, hot and fierce. If you touch any of them, you'll what? You have no idea who I am. No idea where to find me. You're fighting shadows, Mr. Hayes, and shadows don't lose. The line went dead. Daniel stood there, phone pressed to his ear, listening to silence. Then he called Brennan. The architect just called me, threatened Emma, Victoria, everyone. Brennan swore. Tell me everything, exact words. Daniel recounted the conversation as precisely as he could. Brennan listened without interrupting. Female voice, cultured, confident, Brennan said when Daniel finished. That matches what we know about the woman Chen met with. I'm going to try to trace the call, but I'm betting it came through a VoIP service, probably bounced through multiple servers internationally. These people know how to cover their tracks. What do I do? You stay alert, you keep security close, and you let me and the FBI handle this. Brennan's voice was firm. Daniel, I know you want to fight, but this person is serious. They've demonstrated capability and willingness to destroy lives. Don't give them a target. So I just wait? Let them threaten my daughter and do nothing? You let the professionals do their jobs. We're close, Daniel. Sarah's tracing the financial networks. I'm tracking Chen's connections. The FBI's building a case. We'll find the architect. But you need to stay safe while we do. It wasn't enough. Not nearly enough. But it was all Daniel had. He ended the call and went to check on Emma. Still sleeping peacefully, unaware of the danger circling around them. Daniel sat on the edge of her bed, watching her breathe, and made a decision. He wasn't going to wait for the architect to make the next move. He wasn't going to sit around hoping the FBI found answers before someone got hurt. He was going to find the architect himself, and he was going to end this. But first, he needed help. The kind of help that didn't play by the rules. Daniel pulled out his phone and called a number he'd hoped never to use again. It rang 4 times before a gruff voice answered. This better be important. Marcus Reeves, Daniel said. It's Daniel Hayes from MIT. You said if I ever needed anything outside the law, I should call you. Marcus Reeves had been Daniel's roommate sophomore year, back before Reeves had dropped out to do things Daniel had never asked about, but had always suspected were illegal. They'd stayed in loose contact, the kind of friendship built on mutual respect and the understanding that their paths had diverged sharply. Hayes, been a while. Reeves sounded amused. Saw you on the news, hell of a mess you're in. It's about to get messier. I need information someone doesn't want found. The kind of information that requires skills I don't have. Hacking, you mean? Among other things. Reeves was quiet for a moment. This the kind of job that could land me in federal prison? Possibly. Good, I was getting bored anyway. Reeves chuckled. What do you need? Daniel explained about the architect, the shell corporations, the 3 other companies that had been destroyed. Reeves listened, and Daniel could almost hear the gears turning in his old friend's head. That's ambitious. Tracing ownership through that many corporate layers takes time and some serious illegal database access. Reeves paused. But I know people. People who specialize in finding things that don't want to be found. Give me 48 hours. I might not have 48 hours. Then I'll work fast. Send me everything you've got. Company names, dates, financial records, anything connected to the shell corporations. I'll start digging tonight. Reeves, if this goes wrong, it won't. And if it does, I was never involved. That's how this works. Reeves's tone turned serious. But Hayes, be careful. People who build empires in the shadows don't like being dragged into the light. They bite back. I know. They already threatened my daughter. Well, then they just made a critical mistake. Now you're not fighting for your company. You're fighting for her. And desperate fathers are the most dangerous people in the world. Reeves paused. I'll call you when I have something. Watch your back. The call ended. Daniel sat there in the dark, beside his sleeping daughter, and felt something shift inside him. The architect thought they were untouchable, thought they could threaten and intimidate and win through fear. They were wrong, because Daniel Hayes had already lost everything once, had already faced the worst choice a parent could face, had already chosen love over ambition. And a man with nothing left to lose was impossible to threaten. The war wasn't over. But Daniel was done fighting defensively. It was time to take the fight to them. Marcus Reeves called back 36 hours later, not 48. Daniel was in his office at Hayes Tech, his first day back since the collapse, when his phone buzzed with a number he didn't recognize. It's me, Reeves said without preamble. Found your ghost. Took some creative database access, and a few favors I'll never be able to call in again. But I got her. Daniel's pulse quickened. He stepped away from his desk, moved to the window overlooking the city. Who is she? Is she Squash Babushki? Catherine Wolfe, 52 years old, started as a corporate lawyer, made partner at 28, then disappeared from legitimate practice about 15 years ago. Since then, she's been operating in the gray areas, hostile takeovers, corporate espionage, strategic bankruptcies. She doesn't destroy companies for ideology. She does it for profit, pure and simple. How many companies has she taken down? That I can prove? 7, including yours. That I suspect? Probably double that. She's good at covering tracks, uses different methods each time, but the pattern's there once you know what to look for. Reeves paused. She's also extremely wealthy, estimated net worth around $300 million, all of it hidden behind shell corporations and offshore accounts. Daniel felt cold rage settling in his chest. Where is she? That's the interesting part. She has properties all over the world, but her primary residence is here, in the city. Penthouse in the Ashford building, 6 blocks from your office. 6 blocks. The woman who'd tried to destroy him had been living 6 blocks away the entire time. I'm sending you everything I found, Reeves continued. Financial records, property holdings, communications I managed to intercept. It's not all legally obtained, so you can't use most of it in court. But it'll tell you who you're dealing with. Thank you, Marcus. I owe you. Yeah, you do. And Hayes, whatever you're planning, be smart. Wolf's dangerous. She's destroyed people who had more resources than you. I'll be careful. The files arrived in an encrypted email 10 minutes later. Daniel spent the next hour reading through them, piecing together the portrait of Catherine Wolfe. She was methodical, patient, ruthless. She'd identify companies with strong fundamentals but vulnerable leadership, spend months infiltrating their operations through carefully placed operatives, then tear them apart from the inside. She'd profit on the way down by shorting stock, then profit again on the way back up by buying the assets for nothing and reselling them. It was efficient, calculated, and completely sociopathic. Daniel found the records of the 3 other companies Sarah had mentioned. Same pattern every time. Plant an insider, create a crisis, frame the founder, swoop in during the chaos. Two of the founders had been criminally prosecuted. One had committed suicide 6 months after his company collapsed. That could have been Daniel. Would have been if Emma hadn't gotten sick, if Victoria hadn't helped, if 1,000 small things hadn't aligned to give him a fighting chance. He called Sarah Chen. I found the architect, Catherine Wolfe. I'm sending you everything now. Sarah was quiet for a moment, then, Daniel, this is incredible. How did you get this? Don't ask questions you don't want answers to. Can you verify it independently? Find connections between Wolfe and Chen that would hold up in court? Give me a few hours. If she's as sloppy as these files suggest, yeah, I can build a case. Sarah paused. What are you going to do? End this. He called Brennan next, sent him the same files. Brennan swore creatively. Where the hell did you get this? A friend with specialized skills. These are illegally obtained. We can't use them directly. I know, but they tell you where to look. Find the legal evidence that proves the same things, and you've got her. I'll get the FBI on it immediately. Brennan's tone turned cautious. Daniel, don't do anything stupid. Let law enforcement handle this now. I will. It was a lie, but a necessary one. Daniel's next call was to Victoria. I found her, Catherine Wolfe. Corporate raider, serial company destroyer, lives 6 blocks from my office. Victoria was silent for a long moment. I know who Catherine Wolfe is. You do? We've met. Twice. Industry functions years ago. Victoria's voice was tight. She tried to recruit me once. Said we could make a fortune taking down bloated tech companies run by idealistic idiots. I told her to go to hell. I thought she was just talk posturing. I didn't realize she was actually doing it. She's done it at least 7 times. Hayes Tech was just the latest. Then we need to stop her, permanently. Victoria's tone turned calculating. What's your play? I'm going to talk to her, face to face. That's insane. She threatened Emma. You can't just walk into her building. I'm not walking in. I'm inviting her to neutral ground. Public place. Lots of witnesses, no chance for anything to go wrong. Daniel had been thinking about this for hours, ever since Reeves had given him Wolfe's location. She wants me to back off, stop investigating. I'm going to offer her a deal. What kind of deal? The kind that makes her think she's won. And while she's gloating, I'm going to record everything, get her confession on tape, just like we did with Alan Torres. Victoria was quiet. That's risky. Everything about this has been risky, but I'm done being defensive. She came after me, after my company, after my daughter. Now I'm coming after her. Then I'm coming with you. Victoria, not negotiable. You're not meeting a sociopath alone. Besides, she knows me. Might make her more comfortable, more likely to talk. Victoria's voice hardened. And I want to look her in the eye when she realizes she's lost. They arranged to meet at a coffee shop in 2 hours. Daniel spent the intervening time preparing, thinking through every angle, every possible way this could go wrong. He called Jennifer Park and Marcus Webb, told them what he was doing. They both tried to talk him out of it. He ignored them. He called Solomon Gray, his security, and gave him specific instructions. Gray didn't like it, but agreed. Then Daniel went home, kissed Emma goodbye. She was with a babysitter Victoria had arranged, a sweet older woman with excellent references, and Daniel suspected some kind of law enforcement background, and headed to meet Victoria. She was waiting outside the coffee shop, dressed in a sharp business suit, her expression unreadable. You ready for this? She asked. No, but I'm doing it anyway. They went inside. Daniel had chosen this place deliberately. Busy, crowded, multiple exits, security cameras everywhere. A place where Catherine Wolfe would feel safe enough to talk, but not safe enough to try anything dramatic. Daniel ordered coffee, found a table in the back with a clear view of the entrance, and sent a text to the number that had called him 2 nights ago. I want to talk. Coffee shop on Brennan Street. 1 hour. Come alone or don't come at all. He didn't expect a response, but 30 seconds later his phone buzzed. I'll be there. Victoria sat across from him, her own phone out, recording app ready. Daniel had a digital recorder in his pocket, disguised as a pen. Brennan was parked outside in an unmarked car, listening on a wire Daniel had taped to his chest. They waited. Catherine Wolfe walked in exactly 60 minutes later. She was tall, elegant, dressed in expensive clothes that screamed old money. Her hair was dark, shot through with silver, pulled back in a style that was both severe and refined. She looked like someone who belonged in boardrooms and country clubs, not conspiracy and corporate murder. She spotted Daniel immediately, smiled, and walked over. "Mr. Hayes, Ms. Kane, what a pleasure." Her voice was the same cultured tone from the phone call. "I appreciate you reaching out. Saves us all a lot of unpleasantness." "Sit down," Daniel said. Wolf sat, folding her hands on the table. Up close, Daniel could see the calculation in her eyes, the cold assessment. She was evaluating them, looking for weaknesses, planning her approach. "So," Wolf said, "you wanted to talk. I'm listening, Em." "I know who you are," Daniel said. "Catherine Wolf. 7 companies destroyed, 3 founders ruined, 1 dead. You've been doing this for 15 years, and you're good at it." Wolf's smile didn't waver. "Those are serious accusations. Do you have proof?" "Enough to bury you. Financial records, communications with Richard Chen, links to the other companies you've destroyed. The FBI is building a case as we speak." "Then why am I sitting here instead of in custody?" Wolf's tone was amused. "If you had anything actionable, Mr. Hayes, you'd have used it already." "You're bluffing. Maybe. Or maybe I wanted to understand why." Daniel leaned forward. "Why destroy companies? Why ruin lives? What's the point? Uoas iki I opes. Profit." Wolf said it like it was obvious. "I identify inefficient systems, accelerate their collapse, and profit from the reconstruction. It's economic Darwinism. The weak die, the strong adapt. I'm just speeding up the inevitable." "You killed a man. James Richardson, founder of TechBridge Solutions. He committed suicide after you destroyed his company." Something flickered in Wolf's expression. "That was unfortunate. But I didn't pull the trigger. He made his own choice. You pushed him to it. I exposed his company's weaknesses. If he couldn't handle that psychologically, that's not my responsibility." Wolf's voice turned cold. "You want to know the truth, Mr. Hayes? Most founders are frauds. They stumble into success through luck or timing, then convince themselves they're geniuses. But they're not. They're just lucky amateurs playing in a professional game. When someone like me comes along, someone who actually understands power and strategy, they crumble." Victoria spoke for the first time. "Is that what you think Daniel is? A lucky amateur? Not anymore. He's proven more resilient than most." Wolf looked at Daniel with something almost like respect. "You chose your daughter over your company. That was both your weakness and your salvation. It distracted you enough for my plan to work, but it also made you sympathetic. Hard to destroy someone the public sees as a devoted father." "So what now?" Daniel asked. "You walked away from Richard Chen, left him to take the fall. You're covering your tracks, preparing to disappear. Why come here at all?" "Curiosity. And because I'm offering you the same deal I offered on the phone. Walk away. Stop investigating. Rebuild your company and never mention my name again. In exchange, I'll leave you alone. No more threats, no more attempts to destroy you." "And if I refuse?" Wolf's smile turned razor sharp. "Then I'll finish what I started. Not through Chen this time. He's compromised. But I have other resources, other operatives. I can make your life a living hell, Mr. Hayes. I can destroy what's left of your company, ruin your reputation beyond recovery, make sure you never work in this industry again. And if you push hard enough, I can hurt the people you love." Victoria's expression went ice cold. "You're threatening a child." "I'm stating consequences. Actions have results. If Mr. Hayes continues down this path, unpleasant results will follow. For everyone." Wolf stood up. "Think about my offer. You have 24 hours to decide. After that, the deal expires and the gloves come off." She turned to leave. "I already decided," Daniel said. Wolf turned back, one eyebrow raised. "I'm not backing down. I'm not walking away. And I'm going to make sure everyone knows exactly what you've done." Daniel stood up, met her eyes. "You made a mistake when you threatened Emma. Because now this isn't about business or revenge or proving a point. It's about making sure you never hurt another family the way you tried to hurt mine." Wolf's expression went cold. "That's a disappointing choice, Mr. Hayes. I was hoping you'd be smarter than the others. I was hoping you'd be dumb enough to confess on camera. Daniel gestured to Victoria's phone, still recording on the table. You just admitted to destroying 7 companies, to driving James Richardson to suicide, to threatening my daughter. All on tape, in a public place, with witnesses. Wolf's face went white. She grabbed for Victoria's phone, but Victoria was faster, pulling it back. Don't, Victoria said softly. There are cameras everywhere in here. You assault me. You just add to the charges. Wolf looked around, seeing for the first time what Daniel had seen when he'd chosen this location. Security cameras in every corner, customers with phones out, the staff watching curiously. This won't hold up in court, Wolf said, but her voice had lost its confidence. I'll claim duress, entrapment, anything. Maybe. Probably. Daniel's smile was grim. But it'll hold up in the court of public opinion. And once everyone knows who you are and what you've done, your power evaporates. No one will work with you. No one will trust you. You'll be radioactive. Wolf stared at him, and for the first time, Daniel saw fear in her eyes. You have no idea what you've done, she said quietly. The people I work with, the networks I'm part of, they won't let this stand. Then let them come. I'm done being afraid of shadows. Daniel gestured to the door. Get out. And if I were you, I'd get a very good lawyer. You're going to need one. Wolf left without another word, her elegant composure cracking with each step. The moment she was gone, Daniel sagged into his chair, adrenaline draining away. We got her, Victoria said, her voice shaking slightly. We actually got her. Brennan came in from outside, phone pressed to his ear. FBI's moving now. They'll have her in custody within the hour. And that recording, combined with what Sarah and I found independently, is more than enough for charges. Daniel nodded, unable to speak. It was over. Finally over. His phone buzzed. Sarah Chen. Daniel, I found it. The connection between Wolf and the shell corporations. She's been using the same offshore bank for all her operations. I have transaction records going back 12 years. This is ironclad. Send it to the FBI. Send it to everyone. The news broke within an hour. Catherine Wolf arrested on multiple fraud charges. Hayes Tech founder vindicated. Richard Chen flipping on his former partner in exchange for a reduced sentence. Daniel watched it unfold from his office, surrounded by his senior team, feeling nothing but exhaustion. We should celebrate, Marcus said. Pop champagne, declare victory. Later, Daniel said. Right now I just want to go home and see my daughter. He meant it. The company could wait. The press could wait. Everything could wait. Emma was the only thing that mattered. Victoria drove him home. They didn't talk much, both too wrung out for conversation. But when they pulled up to his building, she put a hand on his arm. Thank you, she said quietly. For what? You helped me more than I can ever repay. For reminding me what matters. I've spent 20 years building Kane Industries, telling myself it was my brother's legacy, that I was honoring him by succeeding. But he didn't want an empire. He wanted his family to be present for him, to choose him over work. Victoria's eyes were distant. You did that. You chose Emma, and it saved you both. It almost cost me everything else. But you still chose right. That's what matters. Victoria smiled sadly. I'm going to make some changes. Delegate more. Step back from the day-to-day operations. Actually have a life outside the office. Maybe even date someone who isn't a corporate lawyer or investment banker. Daniel laughed. Sounds terrifying. It does, doesn't it? Victoria's expression turned more serious. I meant what I said about the bridge loan. 20 million, 6-month term, reasonable interest. You'll get the paperwork tomorrow. You don't have to. I know, but I want to. Consider it an investment in the kind of company I wish I'd built. One run by someone who has their priorities straight. They sat there for a moment, 2 people who'd been strangers a week ago and were now bound by shared crisis and mutual respect. Emma would probably like to meet you, Daniel said. When she's feeling better, if you want. I'd like that. Victoria's smile was genuine now. Go, be with your daughter. I'll handle the media circus. Daniel got out of the car and headed inside. Solomon Gray nodded to him from the lobby. Still on duty, still watchful. Upstairs, the babysitter met him at the door. She's been asking for you. Had a good day, ate well, no fever. Papa. Daniel paid her, thanked her, and found Emma in her room, building something elaborate with blocks. "Daddy!" She jumped up and ran to him. He caught her, lifted her up, held her tight. "Hey, baby. How are you feeling?" "Good. Look what I built." She squirmed down and showed him an elaborate tower that looked vaguely like a castle. "That's amazing." "I know. Can we go to the park tomorrow? I'm not sick anymore." Daniel thought about his schedule, the 100 things demanding his attention, the company that needed rebuilding. "Absolutely. First thing in the morning," Emma grinned. "Promise?" "Promise." They spent the evening together. Pizza for dinner, a movie Emma chose, stories before bed. Normal things, mundane things, the best things. After Emma fell asleep, Daniel sat on the couch with a beer and his phone, reading through the news coverage. Catherine Wolfe arrested. Richard Chen cooperating with prosecutors. Hayes Tech stock rebounding. Customers returning. Investors calling. His company would survive. Damaged, definitely. Smaller than it had been, but alive. The question was whether he wanted to return to the obsessive grind that had defined the past 8 years. The 18-hour days, the constant pressure, the sacrifice of everything else for growth and success. His phone rang. Jennifer Park. "The board wants to schedule a meeting. Talk about the rebuilding plan, timeline for recovery, long-term strategy. Tell them I'll be there next week. I'm taking a few days off." There was a surprised pause. "You're taking time off?" "Daniel, the company will be fine without me for 3 days. You and Marcus can handle things." But Daniel surprised himself with how easy it was to say, "I'm spending the weekend with Emma. No work, no calls, no emergencies, unless someone's literally dying. Okay, I'll let them know." Jennifer sounded pleased. "That's good, Daniel. You deserve it." Did he? Daniel wasn't sure about deserving anything, but he needed it. Emma needed it. That was enough. The FBI called the next morning. They wanted a full statement, formal testimony, everything Daniel could remember about the conspiracy. He agreed to come in Monday. Sarah called with more discoveries. Victoria called with updates on the media response. Marcus called with customer numbers. Daniel listened to all of it, took notes, and then put his phone on silent. He took Emma to the park like he'd promised. She ran and played and laughed, her energy fully restored. Daniel pushed her on the swings, helped her across the monkey bars, caught her at the bottom of the slide. Other parents were there, doing the same mundane weekend things. A few recognized him from the news. Most didn't care. They were all just people trying to give their kids a good Saturday. Daniel had built a billion-dollar company, had employed hundreds of people, had created technology that millions relied on. All of that was important, valuable, worth doing. But none of it mattered as much as this. This moment, this weekend, this time with his daughter. That evening, Victoria stopped by with takeout. Emma was initially shy, hiding behind Daniel, but Victoria won her over by asking about her block castle and genuinely listening to the elaborate explanation. They ate dinner together, the three of them, talking about nothing important. Emma's school, Victoria's terrible cooking skills, Daniel's complete inability to fix anything mechanical. After Emma went to bed, Daniel and Victoria sat on the couch with wine. "You're good with her," Victoria said. "I try. Most days I feel like I'm making it up as I go." Well, that's parenting. My mother once told me that nobody knows what they're doing. They're just pretending harder than the kids can tell. Victoria smiled sadly. "Of course, she said that right after choosing a board meeting over my brother's birthday. So maybe she wasn't the best authority." Daniel thought about that, about the choices people made, the things they prioritized, the ways ambition could hollow out everything else. "I'm going to restructure my role at Hayes Tech," he said. "Really restructure it, not just talk about it. Hire a strong COO, delegate the operational stuff, focus on strategy and vision, work normal hours, be present for Emma." So, that's smart. Companies can survive without their founders being martyrs. Sometimes they even thrive. Victoria swirled her wine. "I'm doing something similar, promoting my VP to president, giving her real authority, cutting my schedule by 40%, finding time for things that aren't acquisitions and quarterly earnings." "Like what?" "I don't know yet. That's the terrifying part." Victoria laughed. I've spent 20 years defining myself by work. I have no idea who I am without it. Then I guess you get to find out. They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Outside, the city hummed with its usual energy, millions of people living their lives, chasing their ambitions, making their choices. Can I ask you something? Victoria said eventually. That night, when Emma was sick and your company was collapsing, when you chose her over everything else, did you hesitate? Daniel thought back to that moment. The alarm screaming, the crisis exploding, Emma's fever burning through her small body. No, he said honestly. It wasn't even close. The second I saw how sick she was, nothing else existed. That must be nice, having something matter that much. It's terrifying. Every single day I'm aware that I could lose her, that something could go wrong, that I could fail to protect her. It's the worst feeling in the world. Daniel looked at Victoria, but it's also the best. Because it means I love something more than myself, more than my success, my reputation, my empire. And that makes everything else make sense. Victoria was quiet for a long time. Then, softly, I think that's what my parents never understood. They loved their company, their success, their legacy, but they never loved anything more than themselves. So when my brother needed them, really needed them, they couldn't make the choice you made. They couldn't let go. Ujit Masramt. I'm sorry, and me too. Victoria finished her wine. But watching you fight for Emma, seeing you choose right, even when it cost everything, that helped. It showed me there's another way to live, that success doesn't have to mean sacrifice, that you can build something and still be human. She left shortly after, hugging Daniel at the door in a way that felt less like business and more like genuine friendship. Daniel checked on Emma one more time. Still sleeping peacefully, Mr. Whiskers clutched tight, and then went to his own room. His phone had dozens of messages. Reporters, investors, board members, everyone wanting a piece of his attention. Daniel turned the phone off completely and went to sleep. Sunday was even better. Daniel made pancakes for breakfast. He and Emma spent the morning building an elaborate blanket fort in the living room. They watched movies, played games, did absolutely nothing productive. It was perfect. That evening, Emma fell asleep during a movie, curled up against Daniel's side. He carried her to bed, tucked her in, kissed her forehead. Love you, Daddy, she mumbled, already mostly asleep. Love you too, baby. More than anything. Standing there in her doorway, watching her breathe in the dim glow of her nightlight, Daniel understood something he'd been too busy to see before. Success wasn't about building the biggest company or making the most money or achieving the highest status. Those things were fine, even admirable, but they weren't the point. The point was this, these moments, this love, this presence. Everything else was just noise. Monday morning, Daniel went to the FBI office and gave his formal statement. Spent 4 hours walking them through the entire conspiracy, providing documentation, answering questions. They told him Catherine Wolfe was facing 43 counts of fraud, conspiracy, and corporate sabotage across multiple jurisdictions. She'd be in prison for the rest of her life if even half the charges stuck. Richard Chen had already pled guilty, was cooperating fully. He'd get 15 years, probably serve 10 with good behavior. Alan Torres was looking at 8 years. Justice, Daniel supposed. As close to it as the real world allowed. That afternoon, he went to Hayes Tech for the board meeting. The conference room was packed. Board members, senior leadership, legal counsel. Everyone looking at Daniel like he was returning from the dead. Let's talk about the future, Daniel said, standing at the head of the table. Hayes Tech survived something that should have killed it. We're wounded, we're smaller, but we're alive. The question is what we do with that second chance. He laid out his vision. Restructuring, delegation, sustainable growth instead of explosive scaling. Quality over quantity. Employees treated like humans instead of resources. Some of the board members looked skeptical. A few looked relieved. I'm also changing my role, Daniel continued. I'm bringing in a COO to handle operations. I'll remain CEO, but I'm stepping back from the day-to-day. I have a daughter who needs me, and I'm not sacrificing her for quarterly earnings anymore. Margaret Lyons, the board chair, spoke up. Daniel, we support you. Whatever you need. You saved this company. You've earned the right to run it however you see fit. The others nodded agreement. Daniel laid out the restructuring plan, the timeline, the metrics for success. It was solid, achievable, realistic. Not the explosive growth they'd chased before, but sustainable progress. They approved everything unanimously. After the meeting, Marcus pulled Daniel aside. You mean it? About stepping back? Yeah, I do. Good. You've been running yourself into the ground for years. It's about time you slowed down. Marcus smiled. Besides, Emma deserves to have her dad around more. She does. The next few weeks fell into a new rhythm. Daniel worked normal hours, left the office by 6, spent evenings with Emma. He hired a COO, a woman named Rachel Kim, who turned around 2 struggling companies and had a reputation for building healthy workplace cultures. Rachel was smart, competent, and told Daniel on her first day that she expected him to actually delegate instead of just talking about it. He did. It was harder than he expected, letting go of control, trusting other people to make decisions. But it worked. The company functioned, problems got solved, and Daniel got to pick Emma up from school 3 days a week. Victoria became a regular presence in their lives. She'd stop by for dinner, bring Emma books or art supplies, talk with Daniel about industry news and strategy. Somewhere in there, they'd become actual friends, the kind who could sit in comfortable silence or argue about business philosophy without it meaning anything deeper. Emma adored her, called her Miss Victoria, and dragged her into playing elaborate imaginary games that Victoria entered into with surprising enthusiasm. One evening, about 6 weeks after Catherine Wolfe's arrest, Victoria and Daniel were cleaning up after dinner while Emma played in the living room. I made a decision, Victoria said, scrubbing a plate. I'm stepping down as CEO of Kane Industries. Daniel almost dropped the glass he was drying. What? Not leaving the company, just the CEO role. I'm moving to executive chair, focusing on strategy and vision. My president is taking over as CEO. She's better at it than I am anyway. Victoria smiled. Turns out I don't actually like running the day-to-day operations. I like building things, seeing possibilities, planning the future. But managing people and dealing with operational crises? I hate it. So you're doing what I did. Just see, boy. Biomerits. Basically, learning from your example. Victoria set down the plate. I'm also taking 3 months off, real time off, not working remotely. I'm going to travel, maybe take some cooking classes, figure out who I am when I'm not Catherine Kane, CEO. That sounds terrifying. It is, but also exciting. Victoria looked toward the living room where Emma was singing to her stuffed animals. Life's too short to spend it all in conference rooms. My brother taught me that, even if it took me 20 years to understand the lesson. They finished the dishes in silence. Then Victoria said, Can I ask you something personal? Sure. Have you thought about dating? Meeting someone? Daniel blinked. Where did that come from? Nowhere. Just curious. You're a good father, a decent human, moderately successful. You should have options. I barely have time for Emma and work. Adding dating to that sounds impossible. Or it sounds like balance. Victoria leaned against the counter. I'm not saying you need to find someone tomorrow, but eventually, maybe. Emma could use more adults in her life who care about her. You could use someone who's there for you, not just professionally. Daniel thought about that. About the loneliness of single parenting, the weight of every decision falling on him alone. About how nice it had been to have Victoria's partnership these past weeks. Someone who understood the pressures and challenges. Maybe eventually, he said. Right now, I'm just trying to figure out this new version of my life. Fair enough, Victoria smiled. But when you're ready, don't let fear stop you. You're braver than you think. She left shortly after. Emma hugged her goodbye, made her promise to come back soon. After Emma was in bed, Daniel sat on his couch with herbal tea. He'd switched from coffee in the evenings, trying to sleep better, and thought about everything that had happened. A month ago, his company was collapsing, his daughter was dying, and he was being framed for crimes he didn't commit. He'd lost everything and been forced to choose between his life's work and the person he loved most. He'd chosen love, and somehow, miraculously, he'd gotten both. Not the same company he'd lost, not the same life, but something better in ways he was only starting to understand. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Daniel's stomach clenched, memories of threats and manipulation. But when he opened it, the message was simple. Mr. Hayes, this is James Richardson's widow. I saw the news about Catherine Wolfe's arrest. Thank you for exposing her. My husband's death finally makes sense now. I hope you and your daughter are well. Daniel stared at the message for a long time. Then he typed back. I'm so sorry for your loss. If there's anything I can do to help, please let me know. The response came quickly. You already did. You stopped her. That's enough. Daniel set down his phone and closed his eyes. It was enough. Not perfect, not complete justice, not everything restored, but enough. 3 months later, Hayes Tech was back. Not to its previous heights, but stable, growing sustainably, profitable. The customers who'd left were slowly returning, drawn by improved security and Daniel's visible commitment to doing things right. Emma started second grade, healthy and happy and completely unaware of how close she'd come to losing her father to obsession. Victoria returned from her sabbatical tanned, relaxed, and with a new hobby. She'd taken up pottery, of all things. She showed Daniel photos of lopsided bowls and uneven vases with genuine pride. They're terrible, she admitted cheerfully, but I made them with my own hands, and nobody can take them away or short them or destroy them in a hostile takeover. It's freeing. On a Saturday in October, Daniel took Emma to the park. The leaves were turning, the air crisp and clean. Emma ran ahead, chasing friends from school, her laughter carrying on the wind. Daniel sat on a bench and watched her play. Thought about the choices he'd made, the things he'd learned, the person he'd become through crisis. He'd built a company, lost it, and rebuilt it. He'd been betrayed, threatened, nearly destroyed. He'd fought back and won, but not without cost. And through it all, the one constant had been Emma, his daughter, his reason for everything. She ran back to him now, breathless and grinning. Daddy, watch this. She proceeded to attempt a cartwheel that was more enthusiasm than technique. That was amazing, Daniel said, and meant it. I'm going to be a gymnast. Last week you were going to be a veterinarian. I can be both, Emma declared, with the absolute certainty of 7-year-olds. Daniel laughed and pulled her into a hug. You can be anything you want, baby. And he meant that too, because he'd learned something in the wreckage of his old life, something he wished he'd understood years earlier. Success wasn't about what you built or achieved or accumulated. It wasn't about status or wealth or power. Success was about being present for the people you loved, about making the hard choices and choosing right, even when it cost you everything, about knowing what mattered and protecting it fiercely. The rest was just details. Daniel Hayes had lost his billion-dollar empire and found something infinitely more valuable in the ruins. He'd found himself. He'd found balance. He'd found what it meant to be not just a CEO or a founder or a success story, but a father, a friend, a human being. And on a crisp October afternoon in a park filled with children's laughter, watching his daughter attempt another gravity-defying cartwheel, Daniel Hayes understood that he'd won after all. Not the victory he'd been chasing for 8 years, but the victory that actually mattered. He was present. He was loved. He was enough. Everything else was just noise.